Hello, this is a new person here. I thought I'd talk to you today about aliens. Aliens are like they come and they're not really real, but yeah. Okay, sorry, it was just me messing around. Just waiting for people to join, just started the live. As always, feel free to ask me any questions about any of the subjects above, plus plenty more. Now, what I normally do is I'll start off with a subject. I'll just pick one at random, and then until people start asking me questions. So I was just going to talk about TikTok actually, and Gareth put some smiley faces. TikTok's a weird one, isn't it? Because I come across a guy that has 2 million followers, which is a huge amount of followers, and his video was about ancient Egypt. And I thought, okay, this guy's obviously knows his stuff. So I start watching, and he says he spent the last 2 years researching the pyramids as tombs. And I was, well, wait, what? What? Pyramids as tombs? Hang on a minute. Well, to be honest, I think he's actually said 20 years, but we'll go along with 2 years. It's still a long time to research. And then as he was talking, he was showing, because he'd gone to Egypt, so it looks like he's a traveller. You know, he does a lot of his live chats or videos from abroad. And I'll get to your questions in a sec, sorry. And he did this video where he's showing museum in Egypt, and he's showing all the underground passages that a pyramid has. And he mentioned the word that they're a tomb. And I was like, oh, hell no. Hell no. This guy, 2 years at least, researching, and he comes out with a tomb, and he's got 2 million followers. I was like, no. I don't normally post things on people's videos. So I wrote on there, I says, look, you kind of lost all credibility when you mentioned it was a tomb. And someone else then said, what do you mean? They're all royal tombs? And I was like, oh, hell no. Not again. Here we go. One of his 2 million followers. So I then wrote, okay, name one pyramid that has a mummy, or had a mummy. So he wrote back, or I think it was him or someone else wrote back, the pyramid of Menere. I'm terrible at pronunciations. So then I straight away wrote back, you do realise that wasn't actually a mummy. And then I wrote, research is key, meaning one of us had done research between me, him, and the 2 million follower guy. One of us had done a little bit of research. Anyway, then I thought, okay, I'm going to have to do a video on this as well. So I did a video showing that not only doesn't even look like a pyramid, there's no rubble around, no bricks around to show that it was a pyramid. It's literally just a mound. Now, some tombs are actually found underground, believe it or not. Quite a few. But they're not pyramids. They're just buried under sand and dirt and everything else. So first of all, there's no actual proof that it's a pyramid. Second, the actual supposed skeleton or mummy, like I said, was never wrapped. It was just found, and I'll say supposedly, found inside this sarcophagus, inside this tomb, not pyramid. And the people that first found it believed it was just buried in there. In other words, it wasn't a mummy. It wasn't a royal tomb. It was just buried. This skeleton was buried, or I say skeleton because it wasn't a mummy. But they lost the mummy, which makes me even more suspicious that it's even not really actually from there in the first place. And as you know, archaeologists, especially back then, we're going back into the mid-1800s when this was found, supposedly. They just happened to lose the body, which of the oldest known mummy in existence. Now, where did I put that mummy again? Yeah, it probably wasn't even in there, because no pyramid was ever found with a proper mummy. And so we've got one that possibly might have had a mummy, but really, even the original people that possibly found it said it wasn't even a mummy. So, okay, all right. Enough of me waffling on there. Right, let's just go scroll back. Sorry, I didn't see all these messages. Okay, Susie said hi. Hi, Susie. How you doing? Hope you're well. Question from 4379 kilohertz: is the moon man-made? The moon is not man-made. The moon, if you go by the Uma Elish, now there are some people. I was listening to someone actually today that was saying that he believes from the Uma Elish that the planet split Earth into two and created, in other words, a rogue planet with its own moons, just like Zachariah Sitchin says. But Zachariah claims that those moons hit a planet called Tiamat, which was in the correct position for where the asteroid belt ended up being. So my take, I would go along with that version as opposed to Nibiru's moon smashing into Earth and then creating the moon from Earth and the asteroid belt, which just happens to be nowhere near us. It's way out in the distance. Whereas the other planet that was there would have been in that area there. And then, but you could argue, well, how come Earth and everything's moved to here? But there's a thing called Bode's Law, which basically says for every planet going out from a sun, there has to be equal distance, doubling from the distance before. So if there was a planet called Tiamat and it did break up and Earth got, was part of Tiamat and the moon was part of Tiamat and we went flying off, eventually we would get into an orbit, as Bode's Law says. So that kind of makes sense to me. So no, either way, it's not man-made. It's not alien-made. It's, if you go by the original text, there are creatures on there. Nazis. There's aliens mining the moon and everything else, but it's not man-made. And even if it was man-made, it wasn't made by us, because we have only been here on this planet for 300,000 years. So, Peach has joined. Evening, Sensei and number one. Hi, Peach. Hope you're getting on with your house. Susie's wrote, speaking of Egypt, I only just watched Gods of Egypt the other day. Anunnaki references. I thought you watched that before. I thought you was the one that mentioned it to me with the scarabs, or was it Winnie that was saying it? Yeah, I mean, Gods of Egypt is literally, to me, well, now you've watched it, I mean, does it not smack of Anunnaki, the height of them, the flying wings and everything that Sumerian had? To bear in mind, the Egyptians had those wings, but so did Sumerian. So I have a feeling that they was trying to claim that they were Anunnaki, but obviously couldn't. I mean, they went out into space on top of I can't remember whose ship it was, but of course they done it as a ship, literally, because the solar boat in Egyptian times was called a solar boat, but was a flying craft that could come in from, up above. In other words, it wasn't only on the ocean. So I think, I definitely think, when I watched that, I was like, yeah, they know what they're talking about, or tried to get away with as much as they could without turning it into an Anunnaki thing. So yeah, that's just my take. I'm guessing you thought the same, maybe. Peach says he's got a job, starts tomorrow. Oh, good luck, Peach. Hopefully it's one that you wanted. Sean's joined. Hey all. Hi, Sean. Just going through the messages here. Just scrolling down. Totties wrote, any thoughts on big cats in Britain? I did look into it. I mean, you remember ages ago, I don't know how old you are, but there was the Moors cats and things. The only reference, I mean, I'm guessing you're on about modern times as opposed to prehistoric times. Sort of saber-toothed tiger type things. I'm guessing you're on about sort of the panthers or the creatures that they believed were. Bottom line is, when you trace it all back, a lot of them seem to have come from zoos or people that had them as pets and let them go, and then they ended up getting captured by authorities. So I can only assume that would be the case with all of them, really. I can't imagine one wild family of giant cats out there, one way or another, whether it's lions, panthers, tigers. I can't imagine a family being out there and not being noticed, because they would have to go and hunt. And shortly soon, someone will run across one of them or be mauled by one of them. So I think the early days back in the 70s and mid-80s, up to the mid-80s, I think they were just escaped animals that managed to one-offs. But good question. Go number 2 in the class for that. Well done. Just scrolling down. Gareth wrote, "Hi, do you think the remaining casing at the top of pyramids is left after ancient cataclysm?" Do you think the remaining casing at the top? Are you referring to a capstone, or are you referring to the casing? Because I actually call the sort of limestone type plaster, or whatever you want to call it, on the outside as casing. So I'm not sure what you're referring to. Now, if you look at all the pyramids, you'll find that there's virtually none with a capstone. I can't find any with a capstone. Now, mainstream will tell you that's because they're all gold and they've all been stolen because they're all gold. That's mainstream. I don't agree with that, but anyway. And then you've also got mainstream that says, "Oh, well, they also had a Ben stone on the top." Well, which one is it? Gold or Ben stone? They try and fit the narrative to match. And why aren't the Ben stone still on top of the pyramid? Why are they down on the floor? Yeah, they don't know. Well, maybe someone pushed it off. Regarding the cataclysms, no, I think I do think people have gone up there over the centuries and have taken off or destroyed whatever the capstones were, and I don't believe they were solid gold. One might have had solid gold, possibly, but again, there is no evidence. If you go and look it up, you'll come across websites saying it had gold, but when you actually dig deep, you will find there is no evidence whatsoever of gold on the top. Muchu has wrote, "Hello, hi Muchu. Nice of you to join. I can't help but want to say Machu Picchu." Sorry, can't help it. Just scrolling down. X Laura's wrote, and when I say X Laura, it's not my ex Laura. It's the name _X Laura. Evening. Hi, Laura. Forgive me if I always seem to try and read out, even if they're not usernames, I try and read them out as best as possible. Susie OK's joined. Good day all. Hi, Susie. Thank you for joining. Izen has wrote, "What can you tell me about the firmament?" Oh, God, here we go. Okay, so my regulars are screaming now. They're going to be going, "No, don't ask me that question." So the early records, and I mean we're talking the earliest records of any known texts, such as the Book of Enoch, talk about the firmament. And the firmament is basically the atmosphere. That's what it was. They struggled to get through the atmosphere. And you know this because when you read the Book of Enoch and it says above the firmament, in other words, up into space. But so this is the way it's worded. Above the firmament, you could even call it sky if you want. Above the firmament, there are stars in heaven. That was the exact quote from the Book of Enoch. Of course, we can see the stars, so we know it's not heaven. We know the translation was wrong for space. And unfortunately, somehow, someone in modern times looked up the word firmament and somehow turned it into an impenetrable dome that is not an impenetrable dome. Otherwise, the Anunnaki wouldn't have been able to get through and tell us the word firmament. Unless you then think, well, hang on a minute, the Anunnaki were always here, which is kind of weird because they have a fully fledged language, not even a part language, that suddenly appeared here on Earth. You only get that if you have a society that already know how to write in that fully fledged language. So they clearly came here from somewhere, and of course they came through the dome, which wasn't really a dome, it was through the firmament. So hopefully that makes sense now when you look at all the people that waffle on about domes and stuff. There is no dome. Shane has wrote, could you tell me about what the difference is between Dogman and a werewolf? Okay, Dogman is a new phenomenon, and it's a man with a dog's face. Now, some people, the problem is there's not much to go on because it's such a new phenomenon. Some people have said that it's a dog with a man's face, but it's 90% of people will say it's the other way around. It can walk on two legs and is seen mostly in America, or that's the reports I hear from. Obviously, I don't speak Russian or whatever, so there's a possibility it comes from elsewhere. As far as I'm aware, no one's ever caught it on film. No one's ever caught any tracks of it. But the people that have seen it stick by their guns and say, absolutely, it was 6 to 7 foot tall, and it was walking across the thing virtually naked, with hair, like fur, but standing up as a human type of thing. And then you've got the werewolf, which is a well older creature, in myth, if you go by myths. And a werewolf obviously has the ability to change from a person to a human, whereas the Dogman, no one's seen it change, so we can only assume that it's doesn't change. It is what it is. Not much really else to say. I mean, the werewolf's been, different countries talk about the werewolf, whereas Dogman, as far as I'm aware, is only a USA phenomenon. Some people say that it's it was an escaped test by the military. I mean, you could pick your own story to go with it. I struggle with that because there is no evidence whatsoever. A Bigfoot, there's sounds and footprints and whatnot, but Dogman, it's literally it's like a Skinwalker. In terms of, there's only stories, which is a real shame because obviously skinwalkers have been going for such a long time, but no one's ever caught one on footage, which is a real shame. So, yeah, I other than that, I can't say much more on it because it's such a new phenomenon, Dogman. Tibbers wrote, how come Bigfoot escapes evasion? It doesn't always. It has been obviously shot at, and it has been shot. Many stories of people saying that they've shot it, gone back to pick up an ATV or gone to pick up a pickup truck or whatever, and when they come back, it's gone. Many of those kind of stories. There's obviously there's the foot. People will say that there's a Bigfoot behind a tree and it's throwing rocks at them, etc. So technically, you've not evaded it. There's other stories of people that get intimidated by Bigfoot. In other words, they come across Bigfoot accidentally in their car or whatever when they go into a park area or something, and literally one or two Bigfoot intimidate the people and show themselves. So that's so they're not always, if those people had guns, then it might have been a different story and they might have killed them. But the general consensus is that Bigfoot can read your mind. In other words, mind speak, telepathic, however you want to say it. And supposedly, if they do that, which there are people out there that have said that they've spent time with them, and there's other people that have said that they hear a Bigfoot in their head saying, just keep walking or whatever. So if they can do that, if they have that ability, and humans are one of the only species that don't have that ability from what I've learned. If Bigfoots can do this, then they know when we're coming. They can, sense us, and they can also sense whether you're hostile or not. There's many stories of people that have gone looking for Bigfoot and actually found Bigfoot, and they believe it's because their intent and they didn't have a weapon that they've come across Bigfoot. Whereas the people with guns that want to go out for Bigfoot hardly find Bigfoot, because obviously if it can read your intent, then it will avoid you like a plague. David's wrote, is it time to get the lights going? Yeah, oh, bless you, David. Thank you very much. You don't have to. I've seen other people's live chats and they've got hundreds of thousands of likes and they've been doing it for 5 hours, 10 hours or whatever. I'm just happy that people are here and are interested in listening. Alternative Theories wrote, Pyramid of Giza has no silt or soot, which would be left behind by thousands of years of torch burning. Yeah, that is true. That was something I'm glad you mentioned that, actually. Good point. Going to number one in the class for that. Well done. Yeah, that was one of the first things when I started looking into it, I thought, well, okay, they obviously had torches. And how would they have not had torches? I'm going back when I was younger. They must have had torches, because at that point I didn't really know much about Anunnaki or anything. And I thought they must have soot on the top. And then eventually I looked into the soot part, and there is no torch marks in the way that we would imagine there would be soot from any kind. So then there's the other suggestion that mirrors were used. I don't know if you've ever heard of that story, that they used reflective mirrors that would bounce down the chamber, and then they would have another shiny mirror down there, and they had to keep moving the mirror outside because of the sun keeps moving. So they would only get a period before they have to move it again, and then that would light up the tunnel, and the chambers and everything else. But that kind of did work. I think Mythbusters did a video on that, and it kind of worked for a period of time. But of course, once you start getting up into chambers that literally bend around corners and tiny little crevices and things like that. And what about the shafts? The king's shaft and the queen's shaft. They are, I think, it's about a foot by a foot, which is very small, too small for someone to crawl in. How was that built? Was that carved once all the blocks were in place, or was it? And I mean, this would be miraculous. Was it cut, that each block would be cut and then placed so that foot by foot gap would be going? I mean, that's amazing. Matthews wrote, can we go live? I'm on your guest queue. I like to talk to, forgive me, I like to talk to people before I go live with someone. So let me follow you, and then only because I've seen other people do lives and get in trouble where the other person, not the actual host, the other person starts doing things that they shouldn't say or do. And obviously, without sounding rude, I have no idea what your knowledge is, and I wouldn't, if forgive me, I have no idea. But if you didn't know anything, and you just keep asking me questions, and then all these other people would just be thinking, well, why aren't you reading mine? He just keeps answering that. So it's nice if I chat to you beforehand, so we got sort of a plan of what to say and do sort of thing. Shane has wrote, can you explain the myth behind the Wendigo? No, I can't. Simply because I cannot remember what that is now. I know, I remember the name. Oh God, I mean, how long ago? Hey Google, what is
natives as well as some First Nations.
right? Okay, yeah, now I remember. Sorry, sometimes I mean, some of these names you hear. Um, yeah. So can you explain the myth behind it? Not as much, obviously, because I'm trying to recall as much as I can on it. Okay, let me do a video on that if that's okay. Let me do some more research because basically I've been doing this over 40 years. I know I say 30, but that's just because I don't want to show my age. And I never thought I'd be talking to anyone about all this. This was all my own research. So when I read something and whatever else, I just try and store it and then move on. Little did I know I'd have to recall everything for people to ask questions. So I did look into that, and it was around the time I used to look into the Skinwalkers and stuff like that, and the Hopis and the Navajos and all that kind of stuff. So it's been a while since I've properly researched them. So forgive me, I will be going back round to everything properly, and I will get to that. People's asked me for all sorts of things that I haven't done already. So yeah, I'll have to go back round. So forgive me. Sorry, I can't. I'm not going to lie and pretend I know something when I don't. Mike's joined. Hi, Mike. Mike's right. What did the Nazis actually gain, though? I'm guessing you're referring to them being on the moon. Well, um, so so technically, the story is that they were helped by either an Aryan race, which is what Hitler possibly was referring to when he was talking about blue eyes and stuff, or another alien race, possibly Dracos or something, where they gave the Nazis technology, UFO technology, to win the war. And once they'd created their craft, obviously the Nazis went exploring and went up to the moon and realized that there's materials on the moon, there's other creatures on the moon, and decided to set up a base there. And then when they needed help, more manpower, they went to the Americans and said, look, and when I say manpower, I'm on about brain power, not muscle power. And obviously the Americans had, downed craft such as the Roswell craft, etc. So they needed a bit more help in, alien technology, so to speak. So they done a deal with the Americans that would allow the Americans to work with the Nazis and then go up into the base up on the moon, and that's where they are still. Obviously, they've moved off from there to Mars and everywhere else, but so what they've gained is whatever minerals, helium-3, all sorts of different minerals on the moon for whatever it is that they're all planning to do. But I don't know the answer to what they're planning to do. Two Search wrote Anunnaki are not real. Oh, please still be around. This is what happens. I can guarantee you every single time. Someone will come on, they'll say one thing and then they'll disappear. Please. Right, no one else do a heart. Two because I'd like to debate with people, but no one wants to debate with me. To Cert, if you're still here, no one else do a heart. Please tap the heart button now. Yeah. They ran away. This was really sad. N Singh has wrote, what's your opinion of Joe Rogan? Yeah, I mean, I think he's got a thirst for knowledge. I remember him back on Fear Factor. yeah, I think he's got a thirst for knowledge. I've listened to some things where I think he's picked up things slightly wrong. I mean, I've probably done that myself. But he's obviously got so many different guests and things like that. That he's getting so much information from different people that it's easy to forget what someone had said and stuff like that. So, but I think I think he's doing a great job of trying to get people out there that have got information to say. Yeah, absolutely. I think he's doing a good job. Don't like him smoking on on the videos, with his cigars. But oh well. Rod has wrote Hunter's laptop 2,000 mules and Epstein's list question mark. Hunter's laptop. Don't know what that is. I'm guessing that's someone's laptop that got stolen. 2,000 mules. And Epstein's. I don't even. To be fair, I don't even really know who Epstein is. I know he was. I don't. To be honest, I don't really. I try and avoid something to do with him and I don't know kids or something. I don't know. So I can't answer that because I don't really know that side of it. Sorry. Mike Shot I never watched. Let me see. I don't know what that's referring to. Shane's wrote, could you please explain the whole... Yeah, sorry, I already mentioned that I will have to do more research on that again. Drew, Doctor, I'll just say Dr. Euro instead of Drew. Do you think the governments will ever do a full... No. There's people that have died holding secrets, JFK, Marilyn Monroe, etc., to do with ufology, and that's just a handful of people. Then, as soon as they admit that there's aliens out there, people will be suing them because they've been abducted by aliens that Eisenhower allowed because he'd done a treaty with them. It will be never ending, and then everyone will be going, well, I want free energy, because if you can fly a craft with no petrol and the prices of petrol, I want that energy. So the only way a disclosure is coming is when they have enough people, e.g. less people, and those people, 500 million of them that's left on the planet after they do their magical crap, they will be privy to everything, disclosure, because they'll be working on that tech, and trying to do a great reset so that the world doesn't revolve around petroleum, etc. anymore once they get down to the lesser population that they want to do. So the answer is you'll never know, but the elites and everyone else will know when the time's right. Susie's wrote Ra's ship in outer space, exactly what I thought. It was a ship. Yeah, they did it as a boat, didn't they? The solar ship. Yeah, but you got to remember the ancient text for a spacecraft was chariot. So technically, you didn't see a chariot in space. It was obviously that's what that was. The translation was chariots. GC Unit 1 has wrote cheers. I'm not sure what that was referring to. Lewis has wrote, hey everyone, sorry I'm late. It's alright, Lewis, no worries. At least you don't have to make excuses like the Pegasus person that comes up with the most strangest excuses. David Johnson says, most people don't even know about this. Sorry, I'm behind on the messages, so I don't know what that was referring to. Lewis has wrote, when did the Rockefellers and others come into power? Well, obviously the Rockefellers only came into power when he got the petroleum business and managed to do very well out of it. That was John Rockefeller, was it? So I think it was 1800s, early 1800s. But certainly by the 1900s, the Rockefellers were well in with our history. and making sure that it was a version that they wanted. And we know that from not only the court case, but there is actual records. You watch my videos, there actually is the documentation from Egypt where the Rockefellers were trying to bribe, in a way, the Egyptian government with I think it was £10 million, so that they could build their own museum in Cairo, but everything would go through the Rockefellers instead of Egypt. In other words, Egyptians would have no say in whatever they would be putting out for show, and whatever history the Rockefellers wanted in that museum would be that museum's history, not real history. So yeah, they've got a lot to play in our history. I Hernandez has wrote, Jesus Christ is the only way. I bet you've gone as well. They come on. No one else click hearts and can just scrolled all up way up there. I was just trying to that person's gone. The sad thing is, I did that video saying, could someone please do a live debate with me? And not one. I had one person, 5,000 people seen it so far, and one person says, I will. So I wrote back saying, fantastic. Do you have enough knowledge about the Bible to spend an hour and a half debating with me? Yeah, they haven't come back. Shane's wrote to Peach, best he don't talk about creatures like Skinwalkers or Wendigo. I'm not sure what that's referring to. What that means. Nationals wrote, do you think Obama is actually a Bigfoot in costume? Do you mean out of a costume? He would need to be another 2.5 foot taller, and a lot of padding. No. God Junior the Third has wrote, Earth is real. It's better than people saying flat Earth's real, isn't it? Just scrolling down. Gareth wrote, yes, the limestone. Yeah, on the casing. No, I think probably Weathering's probably took that limestone casing off. I know there's people out there that say, this is what gets me. They actually say that the limestone casing on the pyramids were taken off and used to build a whole city further down, like Luxor or somewhere like that. And I'm like, really? It's just, that's not even stone. It's just like plaster of Paris. It's not. You can't build a whole city with four sides of a, So yeah, and I think majority of it, I think, is probably weathering, and I think partly people might have been trying to climb up, which may have broke it off as well. I can't imagine them wanting to scrape up and try and reuse that. I just think that's that would have been what's hit with the sandstorms over and over. We're talking thousands. If we're right, and it is when the ancient texts say 9 to 10,000 BC, that's a hell of a long time of dust storms, rain, whatever that's came and gone. Shane's wrote, could you explain about the Wendigo, because I believe that is what I've encountered. I will need, honestly, I will need to go back and research it. So sorry, I hate not having answers for people, but I do need to. It's been so long since I last looked at that. Ex-Lawyers wrote, the white facing stones were repurposed and no support from the ONY, my pronunciations, and no support from capstones. Um, when you say the white facing stones, technically it was some sort of plaster type thing, and I know you've just sort of said it's been repurposed, but again, I can't really see that because that's a hell of a distance that they would have had to have gone, because there's no buildings anywhere near. You know, you would have travelled 100 miles at least to get to the next decent town that you would have used. That's a long way to carry that bucket of without cars, and I can see what I mean. I can't see it. If there was a city right beside the Great Pyramid, etc., yes, but there's nothing. McDonald's is there now, but that doesn't count. Gregory's, why do you think there was Mercury in the Mayan pyramid? Excellent question. Go to number one in the class. Now, I looked into what Mercury does. One of the things it can do is it can strip out gold from ore. And there you have it. So I've done a couple of videos on that. And if you look in my videos, you'll see Ancient Aliens talking about that particular pyramid. And above where the Mercury water flow or lake or whatever you want to call it underneath the pyramid, puddle, I don't know, swimming pool, whatever. Underneath the pyramid also is rocks that have been chipped out. In other words, someone's been mining underneath that, and there's flecks of gold all over the place on the walls and everything. So you've straight away not only got a pyramid above where gold is, you've also got a place to take, with the mercury, to take the gold out of the ore. Now, I know people hate me when I say this. I think I'm the only person that figured that out. And yeah, so I mean, I might be wrong, but that's my take on it. And it's a very logical one. Now, what really wound me up was the Ancient Aliens program actually said, "Oh, this area here with the golden flecks was a sacrifice place underneath the pyramid." I was like, "Oh my god!" Literally, there's cut out rock on the floor still with gold flecks in it, and on the walls. There's no chamber, no nothing to signify a religious sacrifice of any kind. Nothing there at all. Just looks like a mining site underneath the pyramid. And they turn around and say it was a religious sacrifice area. Really? That got me. That killed me. That did. Not one bit of evidence for it. And that's what really winds me up. I know Ancient Aliens obviously does a good job, but that done my head in. But what you'll find with mainstream is when they don't have an answer for something, you know what they do? Religious sacrifice. Anything. Stonehenge. Do you know Stonehenge used to be called a place for religious sacrifice? Did you know that? But yet, there was no evidence whatsoever of religious sacrifice there. Plus, also, we now know it is a calendar. We've got that. It matches up with the Book of Enoch. And if you don't believe me, go watch my videos, which talks about it as a calendar. But when they don't know something, mainstream will always resort to a sacrifice, religious sacrifice. They've done it with the Mayan pyramid. Outside of the Mayan pyramid, you've got these troughs that go well, not even troughs. It's just a carving, really, of where the steps go. I don't know if anyone recognises them, can visualise the Mayan pyramid, but there's steps that go up, and along the edge of the steps is just brick, and they say, well, up the top they run the blood down the side of the steps because that's what they do, and therefore, forget anything else you know about the Mayan pyramid. Forget about the gold underneath and the fact that Anunnaki needed gold. Forget all of that. It's just a place for sacrifice. That's what happens. And of course, people suck that up and go, "Oh, well, yes, of course it is," without actually doing any homework. They just say, "Yeah, okay, I believe mainstream." So yeah, sorry, I do get stressed. Um, uh, um, Mike's right. The firmament is active. They've switched it on today. Susie O'Kays wrote thoughts on increasing weather fluctuations and weather manipulation. Yeah, I mean I think you know already, Susie, by even asking that question. Um, they're doing stuff. I think, and I think they ramped it up to the next level. They did certainly last year, when within the space of a month, virtually most countries had the most freakish weather going all around the world. Places that never had snow. Places that never flooded. Just ridiculous in the space of about a month. So yeah, and I mean, the other thing is what people seem to forget, and this again winds me up. Sorry if I get wound up a lot. Is, for example, this year they'll say at some point, "Oh, it's the hottest day on record," and you'll think, "Oh, right, okay." When was the last record? Well, it was last year. Okay, well, there you go. See, it's not that. But the record before that would have been 100 years ago. Do you see what I mean? So the way they portray the weather is they kind of make you forget that it shouldn't be like this. It's almost like, well, it's the hottest day since last year. Oh, well, that's all right. Then it's only a year, but it shouldn't be like this. So yes, the weather is. I know people will say, well, maybe it should be like this, and maybe there's the cycles that we have, etc., etc. But if you've done any work on HARP, research on HARP, you know that they're actively doing it as we speak. God Juniors wrote, "Do people have Jesus powers?" Um, Depends on whether you. And I see your title, God. Depends whether you believe Jesus had powers or not. There's stories of obviously Jesus doing various things. In fact, one of the oldest pictures of Jesus is a sketch type picture. I'm going way back, and he doesn't have a beard, and he's actually wearing a tunic, believe it or not, that looks like a Roman tunic, and he's touching a. Forgive me, I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head. I think he's touching a woman's dress, and the story goes with that once he touched her, her illness was cured, and that's one of the oldest pictures we've got of Jesus, and doesn't look anything like the pictures of Jesus now that we're associate Jesus with. Bearing in mind, he only died when he was 30 something, if I remember correctly. And obviously, there's periods where he wouldn't have had a beard, if he was very young, growing up. So it's not to say he didn't have beards, but if you look at all the pictures of him, the older ones, when I say the older ones, the furthest back carvings and drawings of Jesus didn't have a beard. And he actually looked a bit like, and people hate me for saying this, he actually looked a bit like a Roman. And there was stories back in the day. I know this is why I wanted to debate with people, but no one wants to. Back in the day, there were stories that Mary actually had an affair with a Roman centurion. I don't know if you guys heard that story. And obviously got pregnant and couldn't turn around to her then partner and say, it's so what she done was made up the story that it's a miracle birth. Hey, I'm surprised people don't do this nowadays. Like, oh, it's a miracle birth, because I cheated on you. I don't subscribe to that. I mean, I can hear the idea, and it makes kind of sense. And then, of course, the whole story of him then, because of that would have created a story around him. The reason why I don't 100% believe in that is because you got the Star of Bethlehem, which, when you go back to the original Hebrew writings, is literally a UFO. um, so yeah. So I don't know whether Jesus had powers or not. If anything, if he was a hybrid, he may have had telepathic abilities. I've never heard of an alien race being able to touch you and cure you. I have heard of all sorts of medical, like crystals and all these kind of things that might be able to cure you. But literally, just, I know you could say, well, TV evangelists can do it on TV and they can cure someone just by touching them. But yeah, if that was the case, then really everyone would be queuing up. Every single person would be queuing up for that. They would, they'd forget the evangelist part of it, and they would just be raking it in if they could touch people and heal people. They would, literally, people out there that's got cancer or whatever would pay whatever that person wanted to cure them. They'd be, they wouldn't need to stand in front and ask for donations. If you could do that. And I know they could say, well, he's doing God's work, he's helping, he's not doing it for money. Have you seen their adverts? Have you seen how much they take on money and subscriptions and everything else from their followers? It goes into some serious money. But they could be billionaires, trillionaires. Every single person that's got a problem goes to them. Wow. So I don't subscribe really that Jesus had proper powers as such. Sorry, I waffled on that. Mike's wrote to God. That's actually a fair question. If Jesus had powers, why didn't he save himself? Obviously, you could argue healing powers is different from being stuck up on a pole by bad people or people that don't like you. He would have needed either Superman's powers or Stranger Things 11's powers. And yes, I have watched the whole of the new seasons, so I can't wait for the next bit. Did enjoy them actually in the end. Shane's wrote, could you please explain? Yeah, I've read that one already. Sometimes it takes me a while to get to these messages, forgive me. David's wrote, I've seen many orbs. I'm convinced they are spiritual. Yes, they are. They are indeed. So I can guarantee you, I can even tell you the size of the ones that you saw, depending where you are. So if they were in a house, they would have been tennis ball size, maybe just a tiny bit bigger. If he was outside, then it would have been football size or bigger. And if it was looking up in the sky, then it would have been car size or bigger. But yeah, the orbs are what you can either say they're with someone at that point, e.g., someone's died and they're with that orb, or they're ready. They've crossed over to the second plane and they're just floating around, seeing what's going on. But yeah, I mean, technically, spirits. Yeah, you could. Yeah, they could call them spirits. Spiritual, I think, is slightly different. It's where, in my opinion, where you would be seeing it as an angelic being, whereas to me it is just a being, no different from a dog or a cat or anything. It's just a light being that obviously we are not aware of because we can't physically see it unless you're lucky enough, like yourself, to have seen them. Roland's wrote Sup. And then God Junior's wrote back, and fair point, God Junior. Yes, I forgot this part. Mike, he rose from the dead to prove his faith to the Creator. So that's a good point back to Mike, who asked why didn't he save himself. Technically, you could argue that he did if he came back. David's wrote Dogman is new. Well, I've been doing this for 40 odd years, and it was only until the internet came around that I'd heard about Dogman. Now, there's a possibility, obviously, that Dogman may have had stories in the States. I'm from the UK, that may have been passed around to people verbally. Now, back in the day, I used to subscribe to these sort of fancy magazines that would talk about abductions and all sorts of weird stuff, crystal skulls and Bigfoots and all that kind of stuff. And I don't recall ever hearing anything about Dogman back then. Again, not saying it wasn't. It was just not something that was that I came across. So to me, it seems like a new phenomenon. Whereas obviously werewolves, skinwalkers, and things like that has got a proven history record. Oscars wrote Blue Bloods. I'm guessing that's a question. I have to try and work out what your question's referring to when people just put one word things. I'm guessing you're saying, is Blue Bloods like the Queen? That's why I put a little thing in the background there. It says if you've got a question, try and ask it in full. I don't. I mean, I don't want to waffle on, and because I don't really know what you're asking. Sorry. I mean, if you could ask it in a sort of a question, because are you saying, are the Anunnaki blue bloods, the Queen blue bloods, are the blue bloods reptilian? It could be. I could go around and not actually even hit your question properly, so forgive me for that. But if you can ask the question, anyone, feel free to do it in a question format. Oh. Thank you, Mike, for writing what you did there to that person. And then Shane's wrote, I'm impatient. After all that, I couldn't even answer Shane's question. Shane, if am I your friend? I'm going to follow you, Shane, and if you send me a message, I will between now and the weekend, I will look into it for you, and try and get, recall some of the memories that things that I've learned in the past, plus whatever I can dig up now. Davis wrote, Fire in the Sky is the best movie of an alien encounter. It is a very good movie. I really enjoyed that movie. Although there are some liberties, as with... No, Clark. Sorry, my boy's just come out. He knows when I'm on lives and deliberately does it. No. Clark, no. No. You can have a milkshake. You haven't had a milkshake for ages. You can make me one. Sorry. Yeah, the Travis Walton actually said that they did take some liberties, and there's certain things that didn't actually happen, that the film company obviously did, like him being naked at the end, where he comes and, makes that reverse phone call. Yeah. Sorry, my boy really throws me off. But yeah, he wasn't naked, he had clothes on. But yeah, it was, if anyone's ever seen it, the beauty part of that is it's got a lot of truth to it as well. The lie detector tests and everything else. I do like that film. So anyone that's never seen it, it's called Fire in the Sky. I can't remember. Did it have someone famous in it? Obviously, it had James Garner, if anyone remembers who he is. I'm trying to remember who the younger people were. There was probably someone famous, but it's basically the story of Travis Walton, if you don't already know, who was out with loggers one night, and they were coming back home, saw a bright light, and they go towards the bright light because they thought it was a fire, orangey glow, and Travis gets out, goes towards the craft, gets zapped by something, throws him back 10 foot. The others drive off. They all realise that they shouldn't have probably drove off. They come back and he's gone, and so is the craft. I'm not going to spoil the rest of it, but If you haven't seen it, Fire in the Sky, highly recommended by David and myself. Tess has wrote, last week I encountered something in my backyard with eyes on the side of its head, 6 foot. Could you describe a bit more on that? I've never heard of anything with eyes on the side of its head. And where are you? What country? It says Tess in Bama. I'm wondering if that's Alabama, maybe. My user has wrote, do you think Nibiru is close to Earth now? No, from my calculations, and I have done my own calculations, I know there's people out there with all different types of dates and everything else. My calculations is 200 to 300 years away. That's just my calculations. Obviously, there's other people out there. There's people 20 years ago that will say it was 20 years' time, and of course, we're now 20 years' time. So, what I say, please do your own research, because that's just my educated take on the time that they were last here and everything else, and the last written record of them. Because the beauty is that they did actually start writing in our years from 10,000 years ago. So we've got a pretty good record of when they were last here and when the... so, what? Yeah, open... Sorry, my boy's been... You can open a new milk if there's none. 200 to 300 years. Mike's wrote, why no one ever stay and send for attention, laugh out loud? Or ATV? Sorry. Right. This must have been to do with the Bigfoot. Why no one ever stay and send for an ATV, laugh out loud? Sorry, my boy's just asking me to open the milk carton.
It's really hard.
Is it?
Yes, what is this? Ow.
Is it hard?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There we are.
Careful.
Yeah.
Don't spin the phone.
Okay. Thank you, Clark. Right. 2 hands.
2 hands?
Yeah, good boy. Well done. I think when the people that I was referring to that's killed it and tried to go back and get an ATV or whatever, it was before phones, and there's also a possibility that some phones don't work out in the middle of nowhere where these hunters are. That's my guess. That's not to say that they haven't rang. There's the problem is as you know, some states, if you kill a Bigfoot, you will be arrested. So for murder.
Oh, good idea.
So it's probably not a good idea to ring your mate and say, hey, come bring the truck, and then take the body, because what you're going to do with it, because if you show anyone it means you would have killed it. You would have had to have suffocated it, really, to then be able to say, I found a dead body, because if you've got bullet holes in it, chances are you probably killed it. So, yeah, it's probably not too many people will shoot them and actually want to bring them home simply because they could get put in prison. Sean's wrote 7:39. Okay, it's now 8:22, so I'm behind. I'll be as quick as I can. Ray Bands wrote, how will all this end? Humanity, New World Order. I hate people when they ask me these questions. So I think you kind of know already.
Here you go.
Thank you, Clark.
I've been in the bed.
Thank you. There's a particular person that's not given up on these. The same person that actually set up a depopulation program in 1998. You can probably guess who I'm on about. I always refer to that person as Gates of Hell. That person's not given up. If you watch any interviews with this particular person, regardless, even if there is a next pandemic, he will want us to have what, and that's the way it's going to end, I think. And then we're going to be in camps, the ones that don't, And then eventually, whatever happens in 300 years' time, this is something I'd learnt back in the 80s before I know all of what I know now. In 300 years' time, there's a whole new thing. It's all computer generated, AI, not computer generated, AI driven society. So they, and I've heard this back in the 80s before I realised that now that we're in that period now, so which is quite scary. But yeah. Jimmy's wrote, "Hi, last month I was in the Valley of the Kings and they told me Tutankhamun was Sunday. Is that true then? They told me Tutankhamun was Sunday." Sorry, I'm trying to figure that out. They told me Tutankhamun was Sunday. You've got me on that. Sorry, yeah, you've got me on that one. I don't know what that's referring to. Just rattling my brains here, trying to think of what that would mean, but I don't know. Yeah, you got me on that one. Sorry. Oscars wrote Blue Bloods, copper versus iron in the blood theory. Ah, right, okay. See, I said this is one I needed the full. Can this really be true? Right, the best person to talk to regarding blood is not me being a cop out. It's just this woman literally knows everything. In fact, so much so that her channel was pulled off twice by TikTok for just talking about blood. So she knows stuff. And do you know what? She's had to change her username a few times, so that's why I'm trying to remember her username. If you go on my videos, scroll back to one that says RH negative or something, it might just say, there's only four or five videos backwards, and it's got her link to it. She's been putting up loads of videos recently, and they're phenomenal videos. Stuff, again, that blows my mind on this kind of stuff. So, I won't do it justice. She will tell you everything you ever need to know. So forgive me for not answering, but I'd rather someone with her knowledge and skills and everything else. I can't praise the woman enough. So yeah, just scroll back till you see something that says RH negative. She does other bloods, but she's mainly RH negative, so she knows so much. BB Customs as wrote, "I wonder how TikTok knew this page was right up my street." Hopefully it is. Hopefully it's not a mismatch. Metal Detect has wrote, gave me a little thumbs up. Thank you. Susie wrote to BB Customs, "Trust TikTok knows everything." And then I'm not even going to read the next bit out, Susie. Hannah's joined. Hi, Hannah. She's bought me an apple. Thank you very much, Hannah. Just scrolling down. People chatting to each other. Huggies wrote, "The moon is plasma, brother." Question: would you believe the ancient text if the ancient text told you about things 200 years before you then found out they're true, e.g. planets, asteroid belts, etc., etc.? If you then say, no, it's just a hell of a coincidence, then this probably ain't the channel for you. If you then think, well, actually, no, I mean, come on, 200 years, they now everything, even the colours of the planets that we didn't even know about, let alone the size, shape, whether or not they had snow on the top and bottom of Mars, for example. They wrote all of that. So, okay, well, yeah, all right, then it's true. So if you believe that, then when when Enki and Marduk went to the moon and sat, when I say sat, they stayed on the moon for a month. They did that because they wanted to see the circulation, the how it worked, basically. You can go read Lost Book of Enki for that. And there's other tablets out there. I mean, I've just done a video actually, which I haven't put up yet, but it's basically saying where one of these tablets are that talk about something. So in other words, everything that Zachariah Sitchin says, there are tablets out there that you can go and read. This particular tablet's in France. I'm not going to spoil it for you. But if you then say, okay, well, the tablets are real, and they did go to the moon and they stayed there to study the cycle of the moon effect on Earth, which is what they said they did, then if it's plasma, they would have fell right through, no? They wouldn't have been able to physically stay on it. And also, plasma, has it got mass? Because obviously we have tides. And if you're going to say, no, it's just a coincidence that we have tides when that plasma up there is full. And when the plasma is not full, it just so happens we have less tides, etc. There's more to it than that, but I'm just going through that. So, brother, I think you'll find it's actually a solid object. Project as wrote, drive by disagreement, something. Yeah, that's I like that. I'm hoping you're referring to the people that comes on and says, Jesus is the Lord, you're wrong, and then just disappears. If that's what you were talking about, that's brilliant. Well done. That's very funny. Hannah's wrote, I'll debate teacher. Oh, bless you, Hannah. Okay, well, I've got another video that I've already done that says no one's properly replied to my other video about doing a debate with me about the Bible versus the Anunnaki tablets. So when I put that up, feel free to put a post up to make it look like you've actually, otherwise it's, I don't want people thinking that we've set this up sort of thing, because, I want, because even the Ancient Aliens TV program guy or person, shall we say, I don't know if it's a guy or woman, has wrote on the first one saying they would love to hear or see a debate between me and someone to do with the Bible. So there's people out there that's kind of looking forward to it. So I don't want them to think that me and you set this up and then, if that makes sense. But yeah, that'd be cool. BB's wrote, I have a feeling Trump was telling the truth about that laptop and its contents. Yeah, you've got me on that. I'm afraid it's something obviously I'm not fully aware of over here in the UK. So yeah, something I don't really know about. GC Unit 1's wrote, then Bob Lazar was helping the moon base for the Germans. Sad. Well, Bob Lazar was working on one of the crafts at S4 Groom Lake. You do realise that everything is compartmentalised, so much so that you could be literally in the dining room, and this is going by many, a few people that have worked at places like S4 or Area 51, and it's so compartmentalised, you could be sitting having lunch with someone and not know he's the person that's actually takes your work after you've written down your thesis on it or whatever it is that you're doing. And then that person there, instead of actually talking to each other, which is crazy, you'd think they would talk to each other and say, hey, look, this is what I've done and this is what I think it does. They don't. Literally, it's one person does one thing to do with one thing and not... And as Bob said many times before, he says, if only he was allowed to talk to the people that looked at how it was controlled as opposed to just propulsion, then he would know, it might have helped him understand the propulsion better, knowing how it was controlled as opposed to not knowing. So I don't think he knew anything about helping anyone other than just working on that craft. Rubens wrote Epstein was an Anunnaki. Was he 8 to 12 foot tall? Or do you mean he was a descendant of the Anunnaki? Because technically, a lot of us are descendants from the Anunnaki. Sean has wrote, Boss, do you know anything different in your day-to-day life due to your research, floods, food superstition? Interesting question. Do you know anything differently in your day-to-day life? Uh, do I know something differently? I think different. I think than probably other people. You know, I look at death probably slightly different to some people. Yeah, so I probably do look at life differently for sure. I mean, you know, obviously every day I'm going through, you know, learning stuff, and so yeah, it sort of comes with me in my thoughts. Yeah, sorry about the microwave in the background. Project is wrote. Epstein is also Jefferson. Yeah. See, I'm not too up on American sort of politics or whatever that's to do with. Sorry. Huggies wrote, if Elon Musk can't get through the firmament, how did the Nazis? Simple, no one has been out of the firmament. Oh, please. Please. So let me just ask you one question then. So Elon Musk can't get through the firmament, but yet he continues to spend billions on sending rockets up, and NASA's also got a contract with him to send rockets up, and they're all doing it for a giggle because they can't get through the firmament. In fact, they're not doing it for a giggle, they're actually doing it to prove that there's a firmament there. Well, hang on a minute. Let's lose a bit of logic. If I knew there was a firmament and I was pretending there wasn't a firmament and I was NASA, do you think I would fund someone sending up rockets to hit the firmament? Just think about it for a sec. This is the problem with people these days, and forgive me, I'm not knocking you, I'm just saying people don't actually start using a bit of logic. NASA funds, that's why Elon Musk is now the richest man in the world. It's because of SpaceX. Tesla does well, but SpaceX has got him those contracts. So if you was NASA and you knew, because you'll say that NASA, you can't tell me NASA didn't know about this firmament. If you are NASA, would you really want the eyes of the world and cameras attached to rockets going up by Elon Musk that you just helped pay for to hit the edge of this firmament? Would you do that? You'd have to be a numpty. I mean, I'm just saying, I would not want anyone to be sending anything up to the firmament if I'm trying to keep the firmament quiet. Do you see what I mean? It's just illogical for people to, and you know, Bezos as well and everyone else. You'd think they would say, do you know what? I'll save my money. You're right. We can't get up there. We can't. Those GPS satellites, they're really just on helium balloons. They really are. You know, they're floating around in the wind, which is what people have said. They're not up in space, you know, and the Halley's Comet, well, it's just a little old man every 70 odd years sending it from one side of the planet to the other. You know, it's not really outside, it's inside, but someone has to set it off every 70 odd years. You know, no, there's no firmament. Absolutely not. Howdy's wrote, on their other dimensions watching and manipulating us. I don't recall seeing another message from you, Howdy, so I don't know if your previous message got, if this is a follow-on, or unless you was talking... sorry. Yeah, so I don't know what that was. Travis has wrote, what do you know about silica mining on petrified giant tree roots? Well, that's the question. I don't. I would love to know if there are people actually, first of all, concluded that those giant trees were petrified, and that were actually giant trees that were petrified. So far, I don't know anyone that's actually come across that and said 100% they were petrified or they were trees. That's now giant trees. But mining on them, that's interesting. I've not heard of that. So if you've got any evidence, or anything that sort of says that they were trees for sure, I would love to know, because obviously I see them. I see they kind of look like tree stumps. 50 stories up. I'd like to see the size of the person that cut that down. But I'm still on the fence with that, because there's normally only one in one area, and you'd think, I know you could argue, well, maybe a bird took the seed and it flew that far and dropped it, and then only one sprouted up, or it was a beanstalk and Jack was trying to climb up it or something, which, could have actually been where the myth come from, Jack and the Giant Beanstalk. But I would need the evidence to know that there was definitely a tree. Huggies wrote, big pharma fact. I'm so far behind on that. I'm sorry, I don't know what that one's referring to. My Vortex has wrote, just came across this live. You have my full attention. Oh, bless you. Thank you very much. And the person's even put a little heart and then a laughy face. Thank you. I have videos, 800 odd, and there's going to be thousands if we're all around. But as 800 odd at the moment, so feel free to watch them on YouTube. Advert time, sorry. On YouTube, Our True History. On my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. Or as other videos, longer ones, on my Patreon page, which is called Our True History. And they have, the longer ones are different videos to what I've done anywhere else generally. Free Willy has wrote, do you think we are microscopic and just don't realise it? Do you know what? I do. I do. Yes, I do. If you've listened to my lives before, which I'm guessing you haven't, I'm of the opinion that our universe was created by another race in possibly a lab conditions and accidentally hit two particles together, which would have created the Big Bang, and created a mini universe, for which people will then say we're in a simulation, but technically we're not in a simulation. We are in a mini universe that's sort of in someone's workshop somewhere. But of course, to us, we're massive. The universe is massive. But to them, just like CERN, if CERN created a little mini universe right now, is to the people inside that mini universe, it's massive. So yes, I do. So thank you for even thinking of that. Yeah, well done. Gareth wrote, I've heard of sea life fossils being found high up. Maybe a wave was sent through. Yeah, there's many. So, for example, I don't know if many people know this, but you might. Mount Ararat actually has fossils and things on it, sea fossils, and bones and whatnot. Which, if you go back to the flood, it took some time for it to subside, according to the ancient texts. That would make sense why that particular high up area has, and it was Mount Ararat that the Noah, and I remembered his name. It wasn't Noah. It was. I freaking had it earlier. His real name. Now, there's a debate between the British Museum and Sitchin. The British Museum calls him... Oh, no. Give me 2 seconds, guys. Sorry. Oh, jeez. I keep thinking of Astrahasis, but it's not. It's... Oh, God, I had it today. And I thought, I must tell people I remember the name. Oh, it's gone. Sorry. Bloody thing. It's not an easy name to remember. It's not Fred and it's not Noah. So forgive me. If it pops in my head, I'll shout it out. So yes, there were. You're right. There's fossils even in the Nazca lines. There's crab shells and seashells and all sorts of things up where the Nazca lines are. Even though it's as dry as a bone, there's answers there. Sorry, not answers. I've just read the next question. Gareth wrote, "Thanks for answering. You're more than welcome." My Vortex has wrote, "What is your take on reptilians here on Earth as people?" No. I don't see it. I know there's people out there that show pictures of people with, funky eyes, or it looks like they've got funky eyes. I don't see it, and the reason why I don't see it is because those people that we're looking at are in positions of power. On TV, they're not me or you. Now, these people, if you was a shapeshifter or shapeshifted or makeup or whatever it was that you are now looking like a human from being a reptilian, and you're in the public eye, you're being filmed constantly and viewed by millions around the world, that would be that would be right up there with this, NASA paying money to send up rockets to hit the firmament. That would be a stupid move on the aliens' part. You would want to be not filmed, because there is a chance that, as possibly is happening, as people seem to think, there's a chance that your costume or disguise or whatever, shapeshifting, will slip. And if that happens, you just don't have to happen it once, and that'll be the end of it. So standing in the background, or on behind leaders, world leaders, and being on that sort of world stage is a really stupid thing to do, in my opinion. I wouldn't want to go another planet and stand behind their leader and pretend I'm one of them. Oh, just crazy. So that's why I personally don't think they are. Ashhan has wrote, just joined, and oh damn, this seems interesting. Oh, thank you. That's nice of you to say. Yeah, I've got videos, as I've just mentioned, all sorts of subjects, from time travel to Bigfoots and all sorts of weird stuff. And there's more coming up, plenty more coming up. Susie's wrote, Mercury can also be used for levitation. This is why, Susie, you need your own show. Susie's very smart, and she doesn't get enough attention when she comes out with these clever things. So, Susie, I will listen to you when you do your live. Please do one. Susie's got some fantastic ideas. She does her own research and everything. That came out wrong. She does her own things. It's not like someone gives her the research. But there's not many people out there. There's people that just sort of listen to me and then go away and just do their own life. But Susie has looked into things herself. Peaches wrote to Ashan, stick around, it gets better. Thank you, Peach. I will send you a $5 in a minute. Ashan's wrote, I'm an aerospace engineer. I love the idea of aliens. What's your 101 on aliens? Okay, so basically the first set of aliens would have been, now forget what Billy Carson said, where there was billions of years ago, there was a war between the Assyrian, two different races. I can't remember the names he quoted. Of course, there's zero evidence of that whatsoever. So the only earliest record we've got of any kind of aliens would have been the Anunnaki from their planet. Then and I'll be getting to this in my videos, but and I'll be doing it in detail. But I normally just skip over this part, really. But the Greys, in my opinion, not the Zetas, but the Orions came here. I think it could have been the Zetas. It's really hard to know, but I think certainly the Greys came here 3000 BC, give or take 100 years or so. So that's when I think they first came here. Then you've got, obviously, the Palladians we know contacted Billy Meyer, and I do actually believe him. I don't think there was this guy in the middle of nowhere in Switzerland, I think he is. Switzerland. That's taking pictures of these UFOs back in the 70s. He hasn't got Photoshop. He's got one arm, and he's taking photographs of these gorgeous pictures of flying discs that they've allowed him to take. And he's had things told to him. So when you listen to, I think his name's Tom Horn, who's actually an American guy that's sort of gone through what Billy's written down that he was told by the Palladians. There's a lot of stuff that's come true over those many years since he was first contacted. As a kid, in fact, he was first contacted. So yeah, I think Palladians are definitely real. Just from his testimonies alone, I mean, I just can't imagine him doing that. Then obviously you've got the Roswell crash, which, if you've done enough research, you know that was a genuine crash. And I listened to another program the other day where someone said it was American craft. It was its own craft they were testing. And I'm like, hell no. Even though they're saying it was a UFO, they said that it was testing it. You don't test a UFO, it crash, and leave it for 2 weeks out in the middle of nowhere. You got the most technically advanced craft on the planet, and you don't send out helicopters day in, day out trying to find where that crashed. Really? No. And then a rancher finds it, calls the police. The police call as we all know, Jesse Marcel turns up there. He sees it's not from Earth. He sees a couple of little freaking aliens. So, I hate people when they don't think things through. There's no way it was an American craft. You don't leave it for 2 weeks. 2 weeks was the period that it was, supposedly on that ranch for, before the rancher even got there and saw it. So yes, I think that was definitely an alien craft. Lewis wrote, the elites, are they communicating to the Galactic Federation on our behalf? That's a really good question, actually. Go number one in the class for that. Let me just have a drink. Oh my God, my boys made me milkshake, and I don't know whether I should drink this or not. I don't think he stirred it at all. That's a good question. I think the elites will be talking through the channels to the secret military complex. I can't see the elites doing it directly. I think there would be a channel process of how it's done, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't know for sure, but that's just my opinion on that one. Deanna's right. I think someone has asked before, but what's your thoughts on RH Blood? So luckily, the woman that knows everything about RH Blood is back. So I'll get to my thoughts in a quick sec, but she is fantastic. If you want to know her name, because she's had to change her username a couple of times, but she is on TikTok and she's doing loads of videos now. Very amenable. You can send her messages all day long. She's lovely. And to find out her name, because I can't remember what it is now, just go back 2 or 3 or 4 videos on my channel, and you'll come across her video, me saying, "Hey, the RH negative lady's back." And then you can just click on her little link at the bottom there and go and watch her videos and chat to her. But my thoughts are, foreign blood type shouldn't be in existence. It was by mainstream's estimates, arrived on Earth somehow. They didn't say arrived on Earth, but appeared 100,000 years ago. The Anunnaki, in their ancient tablets, say that they physically bred 100,000 years ago with the humans that they'd already created, which would have been in Mesopotamia, which is exactly where our modern science, say that the Rh negative blood came from. So bottom line is, I believe it is the Anunnaki's blood type, which makes a lot more sense to me than it just suddenly appearing from, well, it says it in the ancient tablets where they come from and when, so it kind of nails it for me. My Vortex wrote, my husband is 2 and he totally believes in them after I showed him Stephen Greer Disclosure Project. I'm guessing that's something to do with an engineer, I think the other person had said, because you're replying to that person. And then my Vortex wrote, look up Joe Dispenza. One of his events, they saw a light being heal someone. This is early, because earlier on I was saying I'm not aware of any aliens that heal people without some sort of technology. And I'm guessing you're saying that a light being has healed someone. So I'm just trying to get my head around that. Give me 1 second. Let me just go through all the permutations of everything, why that would happen, how that would happen. Kind of depends what the problem was with the person. Obviously, if he's missing an arm, then I can't imagine that. If he's got, I don't know, cancer, could a light being, I don't know, depends. It would depend what the healing process would be. If someone's got a headache, then it might have just, it may have relieved the pressure or something. So yeah, I would need to know what the issues was to start with. Susie's wrote to my Vortex, in scientific experiments we've used liquid mercury vortex engines also exist. Yeah, I mean, so one of the UFO type crafts uses a superheated liquid that looks like mercury. I don't think it is mercury, but looks like super cooled. Sorry, super. I always get this round the wrong way. Super cooled. Yeah, it was super cooled. Mercury that goes around in a circular motion by magnets in the craft, and it produces a gravity field around it. So yeah, Susie, once again, you should be doing your own show. Latest Visions wrote, have you ever heard about Orgonite pyramids? Not that I can recall. Sorry. Just trying to remember. Let me just check what that is, just in case it's a name that I'd forgot. But yeah, no. Okay, Google. Oh, sorry, my phone just said it's overheating. Let me just try and find a power wire. Sorry. I was only supposed to be on for a short while. My God, it's 9 already. Ruman King has wrote, Solomon was an alien. I'm guessing you're referring to King Solomon. I don't actually agree with that. There's actually texts out there where his father was told by the gods to build a building which will be able to house the Ark of the Covenant, and that building was built on top of one of the landing pads that the Anunnaki would use normally. And King Solomon, he wasn't king at the time. He was just the son of the dad. I can't remember the name of the dad. And he was in the story as well. So I can't see him being an alien. Because if he was an alien, he would have probably been an Anunnaki. And if he was an Anunnaki, he wouldn't have been traipsing around as a son. I mean, it's not to say he wasn't. He could have been an Anunnaki if, e.g., an Anunnaki had relationships with a human woman, but I can't imagine him being a full Anunnaki. So, for example, Gilgamesh was a king, and yet he was 3/4 Anunnaki, 1/4 human. So I guess if that's what you're saying, then there's a possibility, but there's no record of that saying that for me, unless you've got some other evidence. I'd be interested to hear. My Vortex wrote, Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches self-healing normally, but many saw this. I'd be interested to know what the healing was to do with. Peaches wrote 8:11, so I'm sort of 49 minutes behind. Thank you, Peach. My Vortex has wrote to Susie, me too, check out him with the three amigos, Bruce Lipton and Greg Braddon. GC Unit 1 has wrote, Orbs carry light information and code. Yes, it does. I agree with that. Because there was a story time, everybody. There was a story of a person. Now, again, this is just, someone's story, so take it as you will. And he went to this was in the States. He went to his back door for some reason. He had a feeling to go to his back door, and he saw a bright light way, way, way off in the distance. In other words, there wasn't houses or anything around, so it was a rural area. And he saw this bright light, and he looked at this bright light, and it flickered very quickly. That within a few seconds, he was knocked out, unconscious, woke up, and he had what he said was a download of information within that light itself. So, if you go along with that story, then yes, light can contain information. I mean, technically, you could argue that fiber optics carry information, and that is technically light. Yes, you decode it one end and you transmit a different end, but technically it's still a light beam. It's not a physical, it's not physical as such. It's a light. So, Edu wrote, what are orbs? Orbs are an eternal light being, different sizes of them, been around, if you believe the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, since the creation started. And they get bored crapless over an eternity. And this is just my opinion of them getting bored crapless, because I know I would, over an eternity. They join with people. The smaller ones join with people, not just people, animals and aliens. And once you die, you're part of that orb that joined with you when you was in your mother's womb. And then eventually the orb takes control again in a simplistic way. And then it goes back round again into someone else and learns more from that person, and so on. And that's how you get reincarnation, and so on and so on and so on, until they've learned enough. Then they move on to either a different planet, or if they've learned enough wherever they are, they then finally move up to the next plane of existence and become for want of a better word, a spirit guide. Not an angel, a spirit guide. My Vortex just wrote to Edu. Some think souls, ghosts, aliens, angels, many different options. I would agree with souls, ghosts, aliens, but not angels, because if you've ever listened to me before, you'll realise why I say they're not angels. Latest Visions wrote, have you ever heard about Oregon pyramids for crystals? Okay. When you said Oregon pyramids, I was thinking of big pyramids. I'm guessing you're now referring to smaller crystal pyramids. That's probably why I was struggling with, if that's the case, because I don't recall hearing that. In that case, no. I do know pyramids do have properties, amazing properties. Proven amazing properties. You can actually get straws, drinking straws. You can actually build a little pyramid out of drinking straws and put half of an apple in that. Cut an apple, clean knife, not sterilize the knife. Cut an apple, put one half inside this straw, and I'm not on about fully. I'm just on about the edges of a triangle pyramid. And you put that in there, and then you put the other half right outside this other pyramid that you've just made, and the one inside the pyramid will decompose less than the one outside. That's just mental, isn't it? And, I used to hear stories. When I was at school, I heard stories that pyramids could sharpen razor blades. I've not actually come across anyone that's done it, but, I heard that when I was 6, 7 at school. Pyramids can do, the shapes of them can do so much. So if it is a pyramid that's a crystal, then you've got, in my opinion, a double whammy there, really. Scamlets wrote, do you know what these sonic metaspheres that have popped up a lot recently around jets are? I'll be honest, because I've been dealing with the ancient past on the TikToks, I haven't been up to date on more modern UFO sightings, etc. If you say metal, then it's obviously not the orb type ones. Not. So no, I don't know. No, I'd need to look into that actually, but because I'm doing these older Greece times at the moment. So yeah, no, you got me on that one. Sorry. Explorers wrote, Communion is one of my faves. So for those of you that don't know, Communion was originally a book written by Whitley Strieber, however you pronounce his name, Strieber. Sorry, I'm just having a drink of this, what appears to be some sort of chocolate milkshake that looks like, I won't even tell you what it looks like. So yeah, Communion was that book, and it was sold very well, in fact. And then the movie was made with Christopher Walken in it. I've seen the movie, and I found it a bit slow, unfortunately. I guess I was expecting, a lot more to happen. It's more of a, from my point of view, it's more of a psychological thing. What if? Whereas I was kind of looking forward to seeing the little aliens, but it was more of a whole of his, what happens when that happened to him, and it's based on his true story of being abducted many, many a time. And if anyone knows who Whitley Strieber is, or if you don't, he's got a fascinating stories to tell you about that, and also the fact that he's got an implant behind his ear, which Dr. John Lear tried to remove with a camera crew there, and the thing physically moved as he was about to cut it, which is phenomenal. Obviously, Roger Lear. Did I say John Lear? Roger Lear. Sorry, I get mixed up with John Lear and Roger Lear. Roger Lear, yeah, I think he's passed now, which is a real shame. Proper doctor, ended up moving into taking out implants because a lot of people kept going to him with these little tiny implants, and eventually he's like, well, I'm only going to do these implants from now on because this is fascinating. And he's had them examine these little implants, and they let off a particular frequency. I'll have to do more on those when I get back round to more modern times. But yeah, so Communion, if as Laura says, if you haven't already seen it, try and watch it. It's got Christopher Walken in it, and I think he did a very good job acting in that. It's better than I've seen him in some of these other sort of where he's all plays the same person all the time. BB Customs sent me a rose. Thank you very much. Shane's followed the host. Yay! Thank you, Shane. Pammy has wrote, are any of the greys really us from the nuclear fallout evolution? Not in my opinion, no. I did honestly believe the greys were from us from the future. I was so adamant that they were us from the future. I mean, I could tell you 100 reasons why they were. But as I carried on researching and that, it just doesn't fit, which is a shame because I thought I had it all sussed. First of all, there's different types of greys out there, and they don't like each other. And there's other alien races out there, and if they can time travel, there's so many. Trust me, there's so many. There's 100 to 200 reasons why they're not us from the future. I mean, it's a shame because I genuinely thought they were. I thought I had it nailed, but there's just so many reasons. I'll have to do a long video on all the reasons for and all the reasons against, and maybe let you guys make your minds up. But my Vortex wrote, don't shoot them. Some are very intelligent and kind. That's to do with Bigfoot. Yes, I hate the idea that they would be shot. You're right. What makes you say they're intelligent and kind? Obviously, they're intelligent because they avoid us numpties. But I'll be interested to know your version of why they're kind. I've heard many a story. There's some out there that will, snap your dog's head in half and stuff. But Shane has wrote, what's your opinion on Skinwalker Ranch? So again, for those of you who don't know, there's a place in Utah. It's a mesa, and it's got a hell of a lot of history behind it. And I'm guessing you've been watching the TV series as well, called Skinwalker Ranch. Obviously I knew about it way before the TV series, but it has phenomenon there that can either be classed as skinwalkers, which is what the native Indians used to say was around that area, which is why it's actually called Skinwalker Ranch. There's UFOs been seen there. The people who actually owned it before Bigelow took over would say they actually saw Bigfoots coming out of crafts, etc., on the ranch, which is interesting because, again, Bigfoot, alien, as I've always said. There's so many different phenomenon there. Now, there supposedly was a meteorite strike, which is what caused the mesa in the first place. And so underneath that ground is a particular type of mineral from, different minerals or metals or whatever from a meteorite, which could be helping cause the fluctuations in a dimension, e.g. allowing creatures to come through, such as skinwalkers and all sorts of other weird, little gremlin type creatures that have apparently been seen. In fact, if you watch the TV show, there seems to be some sort of hand that tries to attack one of the alpacas, just captured on footage, which is a real shame. I would love to have seen the whole footage of that, but that was just the only angle they had, which is a real shame. But so yeah, I think Skinwalker, when you've got native Indians talking about it that far back, and then you've got Robert Bigelow who bought the ranch and had experiments going on, They don't do that for no reason. There's obviously something happening. So yes, I think there is definitely something going on there. Ex-Lawyers wrote to Shane, love watching the TV show. Yes, the newest episode aired today in the States, or possibly on normal terrestrial TV. And because I'm talking to you lovely folk, I've missed it. Thank you very much. But I will watch it tomorrow night. I will get my cup of tea, and I absolutely adore the programme. So if anyone's seen that, if not, watch it. It's called Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. Shane's wrote, I'm planning to go to the Valley of the Headless Men, but the stories are scary. I've not heard of that. You got me on that one. The Valley of the Headless Men. Wow. No, that's pretty cool. You'll have to tell me about it. I've not heard of that. Sorry. I don't know whether it's sort of a localized thing for your area, wherever you are, or but I've not come across that. I know the story of the Headless Horseman, but not the Headless Men in a valley. Shane's wrote about Skinwalker Ranch, great show, and then wrote to Laura, not the best paranormal show though. No, it's not, but I kind of love it because I'm there with them. You know, it makes me feel like I'm really there with them. I'm not a bystander watching one of these, fake horror shows. Not fake, but you know what I'm on about, those ghost hunting programs or whatever. With Skinwalker Ranch, I am there as they're finding out what's going on. I'm there with them, and my brain's going. You can imagine for that 45 minutes or whatever it is, my brain is going mental all the way from start to finish, thinking, right, why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? Latest Visions wrote, where can we find Bigfoots at? So generally, the honest truth of anyone that has seen a Bigfoot says you have to go with the right intention. You can't go armed with guns. That you just they won't want to see you. But if you go with the right intention, now there is still the danger. These things are big. They can snap your head, and they have done to people, humans. They can snap your head in one twist. So it's not advisable to go if you can help it, really, in my opinion. Do not take a dog with you. The dog will be picked up and head snapped. So many people's lost their dogs that way, with the dog's head snapped, because obviously the Bigfoot doesn't like the dog barking at them, and if it grabs it, it's game over for the dog. But generally, if you go there with a kind heart and the intention to be nice, you may get some sort of communication with them. Some people have left food out for them and that kind of stuff. Then I guess so. They do migrate, apparently. So it depends what time of year you're going to wherever it is you want to go. They do walk along the lines of railway tracks, supposedly. I've never seen them do it, but the amount of people that said they've seen Bigfoots walking along tracks as they migrate from one place to another, in other words, a warmer climate, I'm guessing. So yeah, you would need to know what time of year you're going to go. You'll need to. So there's maps out there of hotspots of Bigfoots, but again, you have to do it in the right time of year. Now, people have said, do they hibernate? And I don't know the answer to that. So there is a possibility they may hibernate like bears, in which case you won't see them for a period of time. But yeah, you can find them, maps online of where, most sightings are. Upstate New York seems to be the main area, from what I understand. Latest Visions, have you heard of the aliens at the edge of Earth? The ones that the government is attacking? When you say the edge of Earth, are you sort of saying the Earth's flat? Or do you mean up in the sky, edge of Earth? I have heard that. Well, I've even seen the footage. I'm sure you have, where the UFOs have come in and been chased away by other UFOs or by lights, that some sort of rockety light thing that gets sent up from Earth up into space to try and hit this other UFO, etc. So yeah, there is a constant battle going on, and there was also the battle over, if you believe the whistleblower, there was a battle over Antarctica when the world leaders were there back in 2012. And no, Antarctica's not the edge of a flat Earth. So yeah, so I do think there are battles. I mean, if you put it down as the ones that's helping us, we've done treaties with. The ones that don't have treaties with us, that want to come and do things and take things off of us, even if there is a quarantine, there's probably races out there that will still try their luck. Or generally, the good ones are out there trying to get in and stop the bad ones that's working with us. It could be the other way around. We just don't know. Susie's wrote, yeah, boy, Susie wins. Susie always wins, Peach will say, I'm sure. D. Lazace has wrote, yo, hi, I think is that D.I.? D.I.'s. Sorry. Thank you. Yes, hi. Nice of you to join. Deanne's wrote, my daughter-in-law is from Washington and her parents have seen Bigfoot. Yeah, wow. See, the thing is, not everyone talks about it, do they? They're not going to. I bet her parents didn't sit there and suddenly go on TikTok and say, I saw a Bigfoot. Were they scared? I'd love to know, firsthand from the parents. Were they, how far away? Did it have red eyes? Was it at night? Did they feel scared? Did they hear minds speak? All those kind of questions I'd love to know. Susie O'Kays wrote, has anyone ever asked if our creator was actually AI? It's a good question, Susie. Go number 2 in the class for that. No one's asked me. It could be. I know, with the simulation idea, it could be. The Anunnaki called it the creator of everything, but is that creator of everything AI? It could be. It very well could be. We think we're smart, but we're really just a drop in the ocean compared to what's out there. And give us another, 1,000 years. We've got Googles now and everything else. 1,000 years, that Google will be telling us how to build a universe. What chemicals to use. It will just. So yeah, I mean, technically, we're only a short distance away from having proper AI that can chat with us. So if you listen to some whistleblowers, they say that that's already happening, and behind closed doors they have AI that can outsmart us. So it's a good question. Shane has wrote to Deanne, that's nothing. I've seen a whole family unit. Wow. Oh, where? This is questions I'd love to ask you. You'll have to do a video, Sean, and send it to me, and I'll put it up on my website where people chat about things. I'd love to know. Shane's wrote, has anyone heard the legend of the Jersey Devil? Why does that ring a bell? Jersey Devil. Don't know why it rings a bell, but I can't recall if it was anything from me. Jodie's wrote, hello. Hi, Jodie. Thank you for coming and listening to me waffle on. Deanne's wrote, yeah, to Shane. Yeah, she said, if they caught you, you're dead. I'm guessing that's to do with Bigfoot. Yeah, like I say, I wouldn't want to as much as I love the thought of, you know, an intelligent creature on this planet that I could chat to in a way, I wouldn't want to stand next to one because the size of them would just, yeah, it's just too big. Jodie's wrote, "What's your view on death?" Um, don't subscribe to it. Don't want it. Mainly because I don't want to have the ability to see past, present, and future. And I don't want it because I want the ability to be able to go and attack someone. I don't know, gates of hell. And save the rest of humanity. That's just the kind of person I am. And I would, you know, I would want to try and push someone down the stairs as a spirit. But obviously, you know, murderers are not getting pushed down the stairs by their victims, which clearly means that doesn't seem to be the case. Now, I will try and grab as many spirits with me to go and do the task to save you guys, but there's a possibility it won't happen, in which case I would be more frustrated dead than I am now alive, because I would want to achieve that. So I will try, if that's the case, I will then try and go straight over to the other side, you know, the second plane, so that I'm gone and that's the end of me, no more. And then I'll just be a memory in someone else later on when that orb goes back round and joins with someone else. So yeah, for me, I don't want death because of that reason, not because I'm scared of it or anything. Teachers wrote 8:35. Wow. Okay, I've really gone behind, haven't I? Shane's wrote to Deanne, it's a horrifying legend. That's the Headless Men, I'm guessing. Sean's wrote, I'm off, guys. Amazing live as always. Oh, bless you. Cheers. And cheers, boss. You're welcome. Thank you, Sean. I know you're not here anymore, but I have to say it. Thank you. Shane's wrote, have you heard of something called the Valley of the Headless Men? No, unfortunately, no. Sorry, it just took me a while to get back to... Deanne's wrote, they are in the atmosphere satellites. That would probably... So the question you've got to ask then, are they in the atmosphere on helium balloons? And as you know, the atmosphere, we do have winds, we do, up high. And obviously less air, you know, that's a fact. So the higher you go, would you then concur that space is real for these satellites to be, even if they're not out, if you say they're in our atmosphere, would you concur that they are in a vacuum of some sort? Or are they on very long tethers that no one's ever seen, going up for a couple of miles and hoping that these satellites that require pinpoint accuracy are not blowing around in the wind? Or is there space up in our atmosphere but not in space? Because some people say that space is water, which I obviously believe space is space. So if there is space in our atmosphere, what's to say that there isn't just a little bit further out is where the actual satellites are in space? Just see where I'm going with that. I'm just trying to put logic there, because I can't see them on, you know, there's more than one satellite up in space. You've got military satellites, you've got hundreds of different satellites, you've even got Google images and stuff like that, which come from a satellite. Yeah, I would say space myself instead of atmosphere. Deanna Jones wrote, no, not space. But either there's no wind up in our atmosphere, which is kind of contradictory to everything we know. And if there's no wind, that means it's going to have to be some sort of vacuum type thing to keep it dead still in the same place, or just so happens it goes above where all the wind is into our stratosphere, which, as far as I'm aware, still has wind, unless we've been lied to on that. But why can't it go higher? Why would it not be in space? Why would it have to be in the atmosphere? Why not put it in space? I guess because you're going to say there was a dome there. And if there's a dome there, then how does Halley's Comet come round every 70-something years? Just doesn't sit right with me. GC units, that sigh you did on the Elon firmament statement. Thank you. I know my brain can't compute things sometimes. I need it to be logical. Daniel J just wrote, have you watched The Fifth Element? Oh, years ago. Why has it got some sort of so far back I can't even remember it. I know it had Bruce Willis in it. Is it got something that relates to this sort of stuff in it? Do you know, I can't even remember the film. I remember some bird being half naked in it. That's probably why I watched it as a youngster. Yes, I was young once. Just flicked all the way to the bloody top there. Sorry, I've just got to scroll all the way down. Catch up where we was. I don't know what does this. Sorry, somehow it ended up right at the top. I'm just scrolling as quick as I can. Talk amongst yourselves. Right, I found something with Pegasus, which he must have some sort of, oh, I've done it again. Sorry. It's not my fault, honest. I might miss one or two messages here. Nearly there. Oh, right, okay, I'm just scrolling back up now. Found some. Oh, right, okay. I went too far there. Typical. Oh, there's some questions. I see loads of questions. All right, here we are. Right, okay. Latest visions wrote the definition of NASA is to deceive. While I agree with you 100% that NASA does lie, I can't say that they lie 100% of the time. There are people out there with their own telescopes and things like that can see things, that NASA says that we can see ourselves, various different things. Not always the furthest away planets, but, like the Oumuamua, for example, that came round. People could see that physically themselves with their own telescopes. So I can't say they lie 100%. Not that I like them or anything. I'm just saying I don't think they lie 100%. I think sometimes they do have to tell the truth. Gareth wrote Gilgamesh. I'm guessing that's a question. I could waffle on about Gilgamesh quite a lot. So if you could let me know what you mean by Gilgamesh, because I don't want to go off and I don't know how much you know about Gilgamesh. You might not know nothing, in which case, fine. But I you may know all about Enkidu and everything else. I don't know what you know. So if you could ask it in a question. Marx wrote Noah the All-Knower. I'm trying to remember his name. Bloody Astrahasis keeps coming in, but it's not Astrahasis. GC Units wrote Zayuzdura. Not sure what that's referring to. Are you talking about the Dendra? The Dendrolite, the one in Egypt. I'm not sure if that's what he was referring to. Mark wrote, is it the Trismegistus guy? Sorry, I'm not sure if that's me you mean. Am I the Triggers Magus guy? I've never heard of that, so it's probably not me. Or was it something I was talking about earlier that someone, I don't know, sorry. Matthews, can I please come on your live, please? I need to verify who you are, plus it's already 9:30 now, so we'll have to have a chat and sort of see what you know, if that's okay. Prior, forgive me. I mean, I don't know if you did a live. Would you let someone you don't know just come on? Only because obviously, they do monitor us. Because after I've done this live, it says, "Congratulations, you have no no." I can't remember what the word was. Something like judgments against you, or something like that. Which is good. So I'm obviously worried that anyone can say what they want, swear, say something bad, and then I get blamed for it. Mark Fisher's wrote, "Time travelers could never slip." Not sure what that means. Time travelers could never slip. Sorry, you got me on that one. Matthews really wrote. Matthews wrote, I would really want to talk to you. Yeah, no problem. We'll just have to do it off of the live, just in case. Forgive me, it's not you. It's I've decided to say to other people that wanted to chat. People that didn't even follow me or anything just suddenly popped up and said, "Can I join your live?" And I was like, "No," because imagine if I did that and they're naked or something. And I get pulled off just because I did something like that and let them on. Reds wrote, conversational question, but controversial question. But is there a chance we are the aliens? Need sunglasses, clothes, etc. Technically, we are part alien thanks to the Anunnaki. But if we're referring to the little greys, I thought we used years ago. I thought we was the greys from the future, but I don't see that now at all. So technically, other than the Anunnaki, we are just part human, e.g., part Neanderthal and part Anunnaki. Ex-Laura's wrote, been watching loads of Praveen's videos to a lot of Indian temples. Fascinating. Yeah, India's got some good history, and I'm looking forward to getting to India. I mean, luckily we've got a lot of written history as well as their architecture, which helps. As you say, their temple. So when I go round, I'm doing Greece at the moment, then I'll probably do Rome and then India. So in terms of videos, so yeah. Can't Thunder has wrote, much respect for having a platform to speak truth. Well, that's very kind of, thank you. But these, I have to say, these are my thoughts, based on things that I've researched. So, please don't take them as 100% truth. These are just my ramblings, and if they make sense or whatever, great. But always do your own research, because I know there's people out there that might disagree with me, and I disagree with other people. So, one of us might have the truth. We both might have the truth, or none of us. So, but thank you, though. That's very kind of you. Susie's wrote, there have been reports of ETs healing people from radiation poisoning caused by their ships. Yeah, I did. Okay. Okay. When I said that I've never heard people get healed by aliens, I was referring to, and then I said, unless they had some sort of equipment like crystals or some other thing. Yes, aliens have healed people, but I was referring to standing there and just touching their, like I was referring to Jesus touching this woman's dress and then healing her. But of course, Travis Walton was healed. There's so many cases of people where they've healed people. Aliens have. So yes, they do heal people, but not in. They probably have to take them aboard their craft or use some technology on them. I was referring to just sort of. That's why I waffled on about the evangelist that just sort of touch someone's head and say, "You're now cured," and lo and behold, they're cured. I've never heard of an alien doing that, is what I was trying to say. Chrissy's wrote, I have an orgonite pyramid. I love having it. I will have to look into whatever that is. So obviously it's not one of those massive pyramids, because I was trying to rack my brains thinking that I've heard different names for massive pyramids, but I've never heard of that for a massive pyramid. But orgonite, so it's probably a type of crystal, I'm guessing. That's cool. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. Pro has wrote, have you ever heard of Dogman? Just saw it wasn't on the list. Yeah, someone asked earlier on about that, and I kind of waffled on about the fact, to me it's a new, I think it is a new phenomenon. Unless, as I say, unless it was told between people in for example, in the States, localized to one particular town that they never bothered letting anyone else know about. But yeah, I have sort of mentioned it earlier. The problem I've got with it is we've got no pictures, footprints, hair, sounds. It's always only an eyewitness. That's not to say it's not true, but it's just a shame that we can never get that. And the thing is, the thing that I didn't say earlier is the thing that worries me is you've got a half man, half dog, or dog face. Now, is it intelligent? Now, if it's a hybrid of some description, how intelligent is this thing? Is it just a deformity of DNA, or is it a deformity of two creatures doing something together? How intelligent is it? And the reason why I say how intelligent is it, for an animal to hide for a long period of time without being seen, like a dog, if you let your dog go out, it will wander along the street, it will look in dustbins and stuff like that. Dogman's only ever really been seen running across roads, as pretty much all I've ever heard it do. Run across a road. It's always running across a road. I've never heard it walking along the road, really, or technically once, I think. But I've never heard it sort of walking up to a bin, up to a back of a shed, up to someone's garage, up to a barn, attacking someone's livestock. So as an animal, you would eventually, it would have to walk out into the road and not always be out in the middle of nowhere trying to fend for itself, I would have thought. Whereas at least with Bigfoots, there's videos of Bigfoots, there's stones being thrown by Bigfoots to try and get people away from them. There's a tree knocks and all this kind of stuff. So I think with Bigfoot, it shows intelligence, and that's why it's hard to see them. Whereas a creature that's more than likely not intelligent would just be like a normal animal. To me, that's my take on it. And eventually, people would see it walking along the high street, because it wouldn't have the intelligence, I don't think, to know to always stay away from people 100% of the time. Bears walk up to people's houses and, bash through their doors and go in their houses and stuff. So this thing must be intelligent enough to know to only live out in the wilderness. I don't know. I just struggle with that a little bit. Latest Visions wrote, the organonite pyramid is made with copper and etc. and in purpose is transferring all the energy to positive. That's cool. Okay, yeah. I mean, haven't really researched that kind of thing, but that's very cool. I know crystals do, and have been used for years as for heat. Jimmy's wrote, "Hey buddy, what's your thoughts on the Malta ancient Sanskrit, the Hypogeum, and the elongated skulls?" Yeah, Malta's got some good history behind it. I think, as I mentioned before, uh, it's the island that has the most takeovers by any other country, which is quite sad. Um, they've they've got some history behind them. You've got some ancient ruins, very ancient ruins. You've also got um, the boulders that supposedly were lifted up by giants. You've got the track lines that go off into the water that no one really knows what they're for. And they've even got the elongated skulls there. Now, I have done a follow-up video to the elongated skull in the museum. I don't know if you've seen the program In Search of Aliens with Giorgio Tolokolos. Now, I did a follow-up to that because there's new information out, and I've put it on my Patreon page. Don't hate me. So if anyone wants to see the updated version to do with that skull, and it's not me waffling on about the skull, it's to do with the museum waffling on about the skull, and it's fascinating the new update. But it is on my Patreon page. Don't hate me. So if anyone wants to watch that and find out a little bit more now about that elongated skull that Giorgio managed to get them to pull out of the back of their storeroom in the museum, then it's there. Latest Visions wrote, and it was invented off the invention of a box that can transfer energy that is all around us into it. Wow, okay, that's really cool. So sort of free energy. And it will literally cure all diseases known, and the inventor was assassinated shortly after. Wow, didn't know all of that. That's really cool. Okay, that's really cool. I was just thinking I've got to get me one of them. Yorkshire UFO Hunters wrote, "Do you think giants built the pyramids? Seems more logic than we have lied to." No, I don't. The the way the giants scenario was 100,000 years ago, the Anunnaki bred with humans, as we know from the ancient texts. 100,000 years ago, some of those were giants, the offspring off of the Anunnaki and the humans. Some of them were giants, not all of them. And as the ancient text said, after a while, those giants, and I mean, some of them were supposedly absolutely massive, those giants started to eat people, eat themselves, eat everything out of house and home. So that's where the Anunnaki then said, right, okay, giants are a no-go. So when the flood happened, they were more than happy to wipe out any giants if they were around. Now, the pyramid, if you go by the Book of Enoch, Lost Book of Enki, the pyramids were, and I do go by that, and it's not just as Zachariah Sitchin's, as I said, I've got another video coming out that explains where another one of those tablets are that Sitchin had copied from, in other words, to make his book. So the tablets are out there. But the pyramids were built 9 to 10,000 years BC. So that's from 100,000 years to 9 or 10,000. That's 90,000 years of giants being around and getting, being annoying and, being trying to be killed off and whatever else. So when the flood happened, the only place that was dry, as according to the Book of Enoch, Lost Book of Enki, sorry, was the Giza Plateau. And there was a discussion between Ningazida, Enlil, Enki, Marduk, and some of the others about how to get because everywhere was flooded, how to get the other Anunnaki ships that are coming back to know where they are, because now their spaceports and everything are flooded, and they obviously want to set up a new spaceport. So Ningazida suggested that he'd be able to build. Oh, sorry, I'm just yawning. He suggested he'd be able to build a beacon. So he created the little one as a template first, which we know as the little pyramid. Just happens they don't actually let you in that one, which is kind of weird. As far as I'm aware. And then he built the largest pyramid. Forget Khufu's, it's not Khufu's. Then he built the larger pyramid. Now, this is just after the flood. Now, at that point, they had, according to the Book of Enki, they had Noah, his family, and some scragglers that survived the flood that were around. There's no mention of giants. And even if there were mention of giants, if you watch my other videos, Eddie Hall lifts half a ton, and he can lift it off the ground by a couple of inches. Now, if you're going to lift, 2-3 tons, you're going to need a lot of giants, and even then, if I tried to lift the equivalent, in height wise to the size of the blocks, if we made it same size as us instead of giant size. So even if the block was, even if we got, 8 people around a massive block, that's freaking heavy still. Obviously, so you equating, you're not saying it's 2-3 tons or whatever. You're now equating it down to a lesser amount to equal our height. So even over half a ton, you would need all of those people just to even lift it off the ground, let alone walk and then try and lift it up a ramp. So you wouldn't have enough space around one of those blocks for the size giants, unless those giants were a mile high. Now, when you take into account all the other things, such as the quartz in the limestone and the quartz that's also in all of the other monuments that are ancient that we can't figure out how they're done, Stonehenge and Easter Island and blah 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 blah. They've all got quartz in them, different stones, but they've all got quartz in them. And if you go along with all the other history about things being levitated, there's it's not just monks. There's a whole hidden city. I'll be doing a video shortly on that. But there's a hidden, well, not really hidden, but almost buried under trees and everything. There's a hidden city that the locals say that the rocks were levitated and flew. When I say rock, stones, and they're again 2, 3, 4 ton, literally just travelled across the sky and landed in the place. And those stones for that particular place, as I say, I'll be doing a video on it, come from miles and miles away from a volcanic rock, or part volcanic rock. So again, quartz in it. But so no, I don't think the answer to your question is I don't think giants built the pyramids. I think it's resonance frequency that to do with acoustic sound. If that makes sense. Did I? Sorry. Somehow while I was chatting away, the screen went all the way to the top, so I'm just whizzing all the way to the bottom. But okay, I've caught up. Where I am. Cryptic has wrote lots of Bigfoot videos out of Colorado. Have you seen one? I'd be interested to to know if you have seen one. The Pegasus has wrote, "Hi sir, high class." Here we go. Wait for the excuse. Sorry, I'm late. Got the last minute call up to drive getaway for Mad Pete Trollo. I don't know who Mad Pete Trollo is, but it would have been a really good excuse if I did. I did warn everyone that when Pegasus comes, there'll be some sort of excuse. So everyone was prepared for that. Fritz has wrote, born and raised in Washington State, camped out on Mount St. Helens during summer. Seen one at aged 8. Wow. I mean, I couldn't imagine what you would think when you was 8 if you saw one. Was you scared? I mean, that would give you nightmares, wouldn't it? I would have thought, for the rest of your life. 8. I remember watching that film Snow Beast when I was about 8 or 9. I don't know if anyone remembers it. Really crappy movie. Scared the crap out of me. And I thought, I know it's supposed to be a white Bigfoot type thing, but yeah, yeah. So wow. Joanne's wrote, "Why are crop circles a focus point? You hardly ever mention them. Remind me on your theory on those." I only mention it if people ask me. So basically, crop circles, the man-made ones, started in the early 80s. Prior to that, crop circles were around for 400 years. Before that, we've got proof of that. So they're not man-made. They were never made. The original ones, the proper ones, are not man-made. They were alien-made by Orbs. Size of basketballs, maybe a tad bigger. And they literally microwave the corn in the nodes. So a node is a knuckle, and it superheats it and expands it, and then they burst, and the crop just flops down. It's crazy. I've mentioned before, and this is true fact, that genuine crop circles produce a 400% more yield on the actual crop. If you're more interested to know about crop circles and what the microwave frequency is that actually drops the corn, I can't remember it off the top of my head. Dr. Levingood, type in Dr. Levingood crop circles, and you'll come across his papers and books and whatever else. So it's genuinely a real phenomenon. People have seen blackout helicopters with literally a man filming, an army man filming out the side of a helicopter over crop circles. You don't do that if it's man-made. You don't have a blacked out helicopter flying over a crop circle. And there's many stories like that of blackout helicopters flying over crop circles. So yeah, they are messages. In my opinion, this bit's my opinion. The rest of it's fact. My opinion, they're messages for craft that can see the messages and decipher those messages. If they were for us, they would have been a lot smaller, so we didn't have to travel up in the air, which we couldn't 400 years ago, and they would be simpler designs. And after 400 years, you'd think they would say, hang on a minute, these humans haven't figured out one of these messages, why bother? But they're not for us. Anthony's right, I don't think Bigfoots are from here. I think they come here for resources, and that's where we never find them. To me, Bigfoots are aliens. The ones that's here crashed here on a prison ship 10,000 years ago, and these ones are stuck here, ancestors of. And they, I think, are almost nomadic in terms of not having huge groups, because obviously the more groups you've got, the louder you are, the more evidence you are around. So the logical thing would be to split up. Joanne's wrote, also, what UK conspiracies are actually fact, like Lizzie the Lizard? Also, what UK conspiracies are actual fact, like Lizzie the Lizard? I've not heard of Lizzie the Lizard. And I'm from the UK. I've not heard of that one. Sorry, you've got me on that one. Pegasus wrote, if the firmament does exist, what's it made from? They're never going to tell you that. You'll never get the answer to that. You can go number one in the class for that, Pegasus, but you know you're never going to get the answer for that. You know why? You know why. Jimmy's wrote, hey bud, what's your view on Malta's ancient sites? Yeah, I covered that a bit as much as I can. X-Laws wrote, I've seen NASA's green screen slip-ups. They are selfies. Yeah, like I say, NASA lies, and I'm fully aware of that. But the problem, what people have is, I think, just because NASA lies, they say that everything that NASA says is a lie. And while I agree there seems to be just some discrepancies on their green screen side of things, you know, and the moon landing and stuff, I do agree they lie. I do. But the fact that people then say, well, NASA lies, therefore there's no such thing as space, which people have said, gets me, because NASA's not the only people there. In fact, Russia was the first people to send up something into space. So now you're going to have to say, well, Russia, but hang on a minute, NASA wasn't even invented when Russia sent up a... Well, then Russia's in on it. Okay, and China? Yeah, China's in on it. And the Anunnaki? Well, that's not true then. All the tablets are wrong then. They didn't come here from another planet, because they wouldn't have got through the water that's up there in space. Not space, water in the ocean up there. And the only reason why people say, I have to do something for Susie actually to do with this. People say there's water up there because of a couple of, and it was a couple of times it was said, that's why I've got to re-find where it was. As above, so below. People say, well, there's water below, therefore it's water up the top. No, it doesn't make sense like that. So yeah, no. So I do agree NASA lies, but you know, if you're gonna look at it this way, use a bit of logic. If you're gonna create a lie back, 40, 50, 60 years ago when green screens were around, you don't send up people and then say, hey, I know what, let's put wires and this, that, and that. You would just pretend there's atmosphere up there. You wouldn't go through the aggro of saying that there's no atmosphere.
Just half a minute, please.
Half a minute.
Yeah.
Go on then, go in your room.
Love you.
Love you too. I was at 10. Bloody hell. Right, half a minute then, Clark.
Yay.
Right, go on then. Go in your room. I have to shoot short soon. X-Laws wrote Hanno Tidyman. I've not heard of that. Sorry. No, Clark, go in your room. It's bedtime.
I'm in drink.
No, you have to take this. Sorry, everyone. I'm gonna have to shoot. I normally put him to bed back now.
Half minute.
Half minute tonight, because I had some fantastic questions from people. Right, see you in a minute.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Lord X-Laws wrote, I get mostly guys wanted to go live with me while I'm sorting the crystals. Yeah, do you allow them? I don't know. Do you sort of let randoms in? I'd be interested to know. Pegasus wrote, so you don't want to get pulled off when someone else is naked in your live? Oh, Pegasus. I should have bloody stopped halfway through that, shouldn't I? Oh, dear. That's only because I was mentioning it ages back. That's why I didn't catch on as quick. Explorers, they say in India there was a war in space, and that's what made the scar on Mars. Yeah, India's got, like I say, India's got some fascinating history, and I will get to that. I can't go through it now because I want to try and finish the questions. But yes, Explorers wrote, Praven Mahanahan, he is amazing knowledge. He is the best to watch for ancient Indian history. I will try and remember that. Joanne has wrote, was Jesus Anunnaki? I would probably go 70-30 that he was grey hybrid and 30% Anunnaki. The description of him makes it sound like Noah, which was one of the Anunnakis. That was a child of Enki's, even though it's not supposed to be, but it was. So the description, the bright skin and everything else, leads me to believe it was Anunnaki, but the flying, hovering craft and the way the original text, the Hebrew text, describe Mary being taken up, leads me to believe it was more of a grey type, unless the Anunnaki ended up having. Now, if the Anunnaki ended up doing deals with the little greys and ended up with one of their type of crafts, then hey, I'll put my money on that he was an Anunnaki. That's the thing that gets me. It's the craft and the description of how Mary was beamed up, basically. And if you go back to the original text, that's how Hebrew translate it from the Hebrew, not someone else translate it. If you can translate it, comes across as she was literally beamed up. Joanne's wrote, is he reading the chat here? Or yes, I am. I'm just behind sometimes. The Pegasus has wrote, I hope the Dogman is smart enough to pick up its own crap. I hear what you're saying there. I understand what you mean. But again, how many people out in the forest would see that and think, I must see whether or not that's a DNA match for something. Explorers wrote, yeah, I'm getting to those questions. Thank you very much. BB Custom still around. Thank you for this evening. Hopefully pop back later. Thank you. Mark has wrote, been listening to your podcast at night, bud. So someone does. I'd be interested to know, was it on Spotify or YouTube? Because I don't know whether to put these up, as regular as I actually do the live chats. I didn't know if people listen to them on the Spotify or one of those type of things, whether it's YouTube or website or something. It'd be nice to know where you listen to it from, or whether it's just me waffling on here on TikTok. Explorers wrote, my grandson has just had a skull surgery to reshape his head, fused bones at front. The elongated skulls don't have any sutures, let alone fused ones. We have fused chromosomes, which I don't know if you're getting maybe that mixed up. But if you look at the genuine elongated skulls, it's missing the sutures. In other words, they're not even there. They're not fused, and you can just make them out. They're not there at all. Which is why, researchers that look into it say these are not human because, or not at least part human, because you've got things that are physically missing that you would have on any other human skull. PNW Vikings wrote, where is the machine or instrument they use to levitate the stone blocks? Edward Lee Scullin will be able to tell you the answer to that. He's the guy that built Coral Castle using the same methods, he said, as the way they built the pyramids. And this is a little guy, 5'4" or something, very skinny, Latvian guy, built a whole castle, literally, out of stone that he levitated. He said he had the secrets of how they built the pyramids. People have said that he levitated them using sound and with some sort of electrical help of some description. So where the machine is that the Anunnaki used 10,000 years ago, chances are they kept it with them. And even if they didn't keep it with them, chances are that if it was found in Baghdad, or because you've got to remember that's where pretty much where Mesopotamia is, Saddam Hussein would have nabbed it. And if he didn't nab it, you can guarantee that the military, when they went into take over Iraq, would have been hunting for it as well. So we're probably never going to see that technology. Cool Bonnies wrote, are you interested in mud floods? I've looked into them. I can't see. I know there's pictures. Thing is, there's pictures. This is what winds me up. There's pictures of mud floods with buildings in that look like, hey, these buildings have been flooded over. First of all, yes, mudslides happen. They happen all over the world. If you've got mud and a lot of rain and a bit of a hill, it does happen. So that doesn't equate to an entire empire disappearing. Two, some of the pictures they use, and I've looked into this actually, some of the pictures they used to show mud floods where these, buildings were half in this rock now where it's obviously been covered over in mud, were actually carved out of the rock. In other words, the mud flood people were using buildings that are actually built within the rock to say, look, this has been covered by mud and now it turned into rock over time, or clay or whatever. And hey, look, this was a building that was covered, but no, you're seeing the front of a building that's carved into rock. So when you got people lying, which winds me up, then that's another no-go. Then the fact that they call them the Tatarian Empire, which also used to be a Mongolian Empire 500 years ago, and then you say, well, they had modern technology, and the only technology they pointed to so far that I'm aware of is possibly a Tesla coil that just happens not too later after Tesla actually creates that same Tesla coil, which, as I've said many times before, if they created the Starship Enterprise, that would be futuristic. But to have something that someone else created, they're not that far advanced, in other words. They're just like, people inventing the telephone, different countries, people would invent the telephone, TV, people in different countries. It was whoever got to the patent first won the prize, and that's generally how it works. So mud floods don't hold any credence to the fact that 200 years ago, supposedly, this is what people say, there was an empire, British Empire. Everyone's heard of the British Empire. There was this empire that, because of some mud, everyone's memory got wiped. All the people that were in this empire disappeared, and every book that was written prior to this empire just either disappeared, or the writing about the empire disappeared as well. And the only empire we've got left that's called the Tatarian is still the Mongolian 500 years ago. So just from those points alone, I struggle with the mud flood, unless you can point me to, and I have asked people to point me to ones that's proper, not people pointing to other people's websites, but if you can point me to some serious literature, and I mean serious, not someone going, look at all these pictures of mud. If you can point me to someone that really knows this stuff, that I can actually ask questions and they don't run away, that'd be great. But chances are I'll ask them some questions and they'll run away. Lewis has wrote, just looking at all the old buildings like Big Ben, etc., that harness ether energy, they all have sacred geometry. And how did they build that stuff? It's a fair question, actually, to be fair with you. I look at old buildings and I think, and then you look at the new modern buildings and you think, there's some seriously skill in some of those ancient buildings, not ancient, but old churches and big buildings that are so ornate, 200, 300, 400 years ago. And, they didn't have cranes or nothing. And I don't know, I don't know how they did it. I marvel at their ingenuity, because you look at, um, you know, castles, and they're just blocks stacked on top of each other, still a humongous feat. But then you look at some of these buildings that's got, you know, the architecture on it is just phenomenal. Yeah, I couldn't even design a building, let alone build a building like that. So yeah, I agree. There's a phenomenal skill back then of some description. Lewis is right. Housing the Parliament. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's yeah, it does it. And then sorry, Rainers wrote, "I love your information." Oh, bless you. Thank you very much. Cool Bonnie's wrote, "Have crop circles got anything to do with free energy?" No, that years ago someone come out with the, oh, if you stick seven pictures of crop circles together. Did you know this? I don't know if you've seen this. And you raise each one up by, a couple of inches off of the picture of underneath, and then you stick it in a computer, and it gives you a prototype of a free energy device. No. First of all, they've been giving us this information for at least 400, probably way longer, 400 years. First of all, we couldn't see a full crop circle 400 years ago because we never had the technology to get up in the air to look at a crop circle, to then draw it, to then say, okay, I'll wait till the next crop circle comes along before they give us another image, which we don't even have computers 400 years ago. And then if I put all these images together, I will come up with a prototype. No, I mean, we're not, I think we're always thinking of us. It's not for us. It never was for us, those messages. If it was, they have done genuine crop circles of animals, of birds, hummingbirds, spiders, and all sorts of other genuine crop circles. Genuine, not man-made ones. But so if they clearly can draw, or carve out or whatever, the crop in formations that we could actually understand. Again, not saying these are for us, but they obviously are smart enough to be able to replicate an image in crop. Then why not just say, hey, anything other than us trying to have to guess for 400 years just doesn't make sense to me. So no, I think the messages are literally for a race that can see the messages from above. Joanne's wrote, Lizzie meaning the Queen and the whole David Icke conspiracy thing on being a reptile. Yeah, I don't see it. I understand now. Yeah, I don't see it. Again, same reason as, would you go to another planet, be a shapeshifter, or dress up as a reptilian if you're on their planet and be their queen and do nothing? Sit and watch TV all day long, cut a few ribbons? Would you do that? And then when you walk out, hope that your makeup, your disguise in front of billions of people on camera doesn't come a cropper? It just doesn't. If she is, then she hasn't got any power whatsoever to do anything. So there's no benefit in her being in charge. If she was prime minister, maybe a little bit more power. And I know, believe it or not, I have looked into the power side of it. A prime minister or president, even though some laws have to be passed through the Queen, technically, when we went into Iraq, we didn't really ask the Queen. When we started jabbing people, we didn't ask the Queen. You can do what you want as a prime minister. So yeah, I don't see the benefit. Pegasus wrote, I made it to first in the class by asking a question no one can answer without self-incrimination. Oh, it just done that thing all the way to the freaking top again. Sorry. I was flicking down as fast as I can to the bottom. Sorry, I don't know what it does that. Oh, right, nearly there. Right, I'm going to have to shoot shortly. Oh, just done it again. I saw the person said they listened to me on Spotify. Oh, thank you. I will stick these more up on Spotify then. I do quite a few of these, and I didn't know if anyone actually listens to them. So thank you for letting me know that. That's cool. X Laws wrote his skull was fused at birth, which made it misshaped. Interesting. However, the bone mass on an elongated skull is double the size of a human's, which is unusual in itself. And also the brain mass would have been larger than a normal brain mass if the brain filled the whole of that cavity on the there's loads of other things that's also to do with where the spine would go for the neck and stuff like that. It's not just the sutras. So have a look into them if you're interested. The Pegasus wrote, "Sir, do you have a podcast on Spotify? If you do, if so, do you interview special guests?" I have, yeah, on my website I have a podcast page, and if you scroll down, you'll see I chat with people. There's a couple of people I've chatted with already. Obviously, the RH negative lady. I've spoke with someone about Coral Castle. So yes, so what I normally do is I do a chat with them and record it at the same time offline, e.g., while I'm not live, so I can edit out, if they accidentally mention their wife's name or something that they don't want to do. I can edit all that out, and then I put it up as a podcast type thing on the website and Spotify, etc. So yes, I do. If you've got something that's of interest, I will happily chat to you. Ex Lawyers wrote they had to split it to make it normal. Oh, that sounds. I hope was that your child? Just trying to find where it was now. I hope your child, if it was your child, so I was just trying to find, is okay. Susie's wrote, "I've got to run, but again, enjoyed the live. Thank you. Take care." Oh, you're more than welcome. Kotiva has wrote, "What about Titania? Do you mean Titania or do you mean Tataria?" And unfortunately, 8, 10, 20. I've been doing this since I don't know what time, 7. So I'm probably gonna have to shoot. The Pegasus wrote, "Ha ha ha! Pictures of mud." Yeah, I don't know if you've looked into the mud flood thing. It just doesn't. The fact that they're using pictures of built in that's carved directly into walls, and then saying it's been covered over. It was not in walls. It was covered over by mud. That wound me up a bit. You shouldn't have to do that if you've got a genuine thing. Don't start adding stuff. That's just me anyway. Cool Bonnie's wrote advanced technology. That was to do possibly with mud flood. Yeah, the only advanced technology, if that is to do with the mud flood, that supposedly I could find to do with it is this Tesla coil. But again, if anyone's got any information on a proper decent Tatarian empire that's not the Mongolian Empire from 500 years ago, I would be interested to see it. The Pegasus wrote, "How do reptilians mask their features?" Well, that's the thing. I don't know. That's why I don't think there is. I just read. I just read the message underneath. R. Sonic, wish you were my history teacher. And go back to the class. No, thank you. That's lovely. Then the same person wrote, "Can't believe all the lies they've been telling us for years." Yeah, I mean, it's not, again, just do your own research, but as you do research, you find mainstream will push stuff down the throat. In fact, did I release, I think I might have released it already. If not, I've got a video that literally says mainstream push stuff down your throat. In fact, the next two videos, if I haven't already released one, is a double parter, but basically it's showing how mainstream will always tell you that pyramids are tombs. Even when nothing's inside the tomb, and even when it's not a pyramid, they'll tell you that it was a pyramid. Just crazy, yeah. And they do that because obviously they don't want us to know the real truth. Billy's wrote, many thanks, got tonight, got to go. Thank you, more than welcome. So lovely to see new people and stuff. Laura's wrote, thanks, he's doing amazing. We'll look more into it. Thank you. Yes, Laura. You've obviously got some knowledge, haven't you? So I'd be interested to chat to you one day. But yeah, do look into the elongated skulls properly. Don't look into the ones what's trying to debunk it, because they'll just say what you want them to read. But there's some good research out there. Look into George Tsoukalos in Search of Aliens when he goes to Malta. And the fact that they had this skull for I don't know 80 years hidden in the back, it's just crazy how they hide that. The Pegasus wrote, why are there so many instances of being turned into stone well before the expected time? There was that video that I put up. I didn't make it, but some guy was back in the day was talking about how things can petrify within up to 80 years, instead of us believing that they would take millions of years. If that's the case, that would explain the hammer and the screw that's been found in stone, and why they're not petrified. Because I always wondered, hang on a minute, if you're petrifying stone, why is the pickaxe and the screw not been petrified? And that didn't make sense to me, because if you've got something that's been petrified over millions of years, why does it look pristine? Why is the handle still wood? Do you know what I mean? Over millions of years, you would have decomposition of that handle. Even in even in a, for example, in a sarcophagus in a tomb, there is some degradation happening on all sorts of things, whether it's metal or wood or whatever. But and that's only, we're talking, let's just say a tomb 5,000 years max, and yet these objects seem to appear to be millions of years old simply because of the stone being petrified around them, but yet they're not petrified or disintegrated or anything. So yeah, I'm on the side that I think things don't have to be millions of years old to be petrified. Kartiva as wrote, what happened to Titania and when did it disappear? I hate leaving people, but I'm supposed to put my boy at bed at 10, and that's probably a little bit longer story. Can I get back to you on that? I want to do it justice, so if you don't mind, I'll answer that another day. Okay, all right. Pegasus has wrote some interesting points, but I'm gonna have to shoot, guys. I've got to let dogs out, and I've got to put my boy to bed and stuff like that. So, thank you very much, everyone. Some fantastic questions. Sorry if I didn't get to answer all your questions in time. It's just I like to, as you know, I like to give as much attention to each question as I can. But thank you, everybody, and I will catch everyone another time, and I'll put this up on Spotify for people. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye. Bye.